Part 94. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 934. Sunny morning. Lan, just stand still and don't move. Oh, when Lan saw Xiaozai, she felt confused, but she still stood still. Xiaozai raised his small fist and swung it towards Lan. Something fell out of his hand and fell at her feet, making her jump like a rabbit. No matter it is big or small, Lan never has a calm moment. She yells and screams every time. Her expressions and movements are exaggerated and funny, so everyone likes to play with her, which is interesting. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. What is it? Nothing unusual appeared. Lan really didn't understand. When she saw clearly what was on the ground, it turned out to be a dropped cannon. She squatted on the ground and picked it up, squib, haha. Lan was only proud for a second. Before she could get up, another cannon fell at her feet. With the light of fire and the sound of pop dash, she suddenly sat down on the concrete floor. Xiaozai laughed. Where did it come from? Lan asked curiously. It's been a while since the Chinese New Year, so the fireworks and firecrackers should be gone. Xiaozai took out a small paper box from her pocket and said with a precious look, the admiral went to the county seat and bought some more. Lan got up, patted his butt and asked, where is the admiral? Xiaozai replied, office. Shortly after. There are many little Lolita gathered in the playground of the town hall, all of them are as skinny as they want, but they are not just throwing cannons and having fun with each other, they have big moves. U-47 and U-505 had their hands behind their backs with solemn expressions. U-81 is not here, she is a shy and cute child. Xiaozai was eager to try it, wishing he could do it himself. Lan had already taken a stance, ready to escape. The fantasy is, anyway, in the center of the crowd, there is a row of cigar-sized cannons at Lafayette's feet. Is Z-17 ready? Lafayette drew the cannon with one hand and the lighter with the other. Ready. Z-17 held a rusty iron can in his hand. Judging from the packaging on the can, it turned out to be for tea. Before Lafayette could move, Lan had already run away and covered his ears with his hands. The Lafayette lighter had just been lit. Except for Z-17, everyone else subconsciously took a few steps back. Lafayette finally lit up the cannon and placed the cannon that was spitting fire on the ground. Z-17 covered the cannon with an iron can and everyone ran away. With the tin can as the center, they were spread out 5 meters away. Each little Lolita covered their ears and counted 3 to 2 1 in their hearts. With a loud bang sound, the tin can flew into the sky, reaching a height of 2 or 3 stories. And finally fell down and rolled on the ground, still smoking outside. Everyone gathered around the tin can again. Lafayette picked up the tin can and muttered, it's not broken, it's just a little flat. It fell flat from the air. U-47 was quite excited and raised 2 fingers, let's order 2 this time, I'll do it. Put 2 bricks on top of the jar, Xiaozai thought to himself. If he put 2 bricks on it, he wonders if it can fly. U-505 said, change the glass jar. Utopia suggested, instead of blowing up the cans, let's go fry the fish. Haven't you exploded enough before? Lafayette tilted his head and looked at the fantasy. It's different, Utopia defended. While everyone was chattering and discussing, Sugu sat on the stone pier next to the playground, thinking that he had played like that when he was a child, playing in the grain drying field next to the government family home in the countryside, day after day. When I grew up, I passed by it again and saw that the government residence had built a building and the grain drying field was already dilapidated. After playing with the little Lolita for a while, Sugu has grown up. The games he used to like now really don't have much interest in him. At most, he just misses them. He returned to the coffee shop of the governor's mansion and was a little surprised to find Yuxian here, sitting by the window. Changchun is also there, She comes often, so it's not surprising. Sugu walked to sit opposite them. It's rare to see you here, Yuxian. Yuxian said, I come here often. Really? Sugu thought for a moment and said, I have an impression, I usually see you in the cafeteria kitchen. Yuxian said, we can't stay there all day. Yes, Sugu nodded. He didn't care too much. He turned to Changchun and said, I found that Changchun always follows you. You are such a little follower, where is Chongqing? I didn't see her. Isn't she with you? Yuxian said, the ingredients are already prepared. Don't worry about preparing dinner. Let Chongqing, her sister Linxian, and Huda enjoy afternoon tea somewhere. Although it has become a fishery, Chongqing, as a former British clan, generally has a good relationship with the British clan. Before Linxian came back, she often attended the afternoon tea of the British clan, transforming into a British lady, but her cheongsam stood out from the crowd of dresses. It looked nondescript inside. Changchun said, Sister Chongqing is a traitor and abandoned us. Aren't you? Sugu said, every day at dinner, Sister Kirov and Sister Kirov call each other so affectionately, actually they just want to beg for a drink, little hairy girl, a big girl from the northeast. You are the one. Changchun stood up at that time, pretending to hit Sugu. Changchun, don't make any noise. When Sugu avoided it, Yuxian patted Changchun's little head lightly, shouting that it was impolite in the quiet cafe. Although it is not quiet here, let alone music, some people play board games, some play cards, and some chat. Yuxian knew it as soon as he made a move. Changchun immediately calmed down and stared at Sugu angrily. Sugu ignored Changchun. He only saw Yuxian ordering a cup of Coke and curiously asked, Yuxian, how about the Coke? Great. Real. Yuxian was absolutely smart, so she hesitated for a moment. Does the Admiral think of me as some old-fashioned person? No, no, Sugu naturally denied, it's just that in my impression, Yuxian is a gentle lady from a relatively traditional Jiangnan water town. She also drinks tea, and drinking Coke feels a bit weird. I still have a dress. Yuxian frowned, what's that called? It seems to be called a Lolita dress. I haven't seen you wear them a few times. Yuxian wouldn't take the initiative to buy dresses. Sugu took her to buy them, including t-shirts, shirts, jeans. I bought hot pants, but I didn't wear them once. She kept saying they were too revealing. Clearly showing off her legs like a high-cut cheongsam. Yuxian said, I'm not used to it. Sugu suddenly laughed, by the way, Yuxian also knows about Lolita. Know a little. Sugu asked again, what about Baroque, Victoria, and Rococo? No. Sugu turned to the maid Kent, who was holding the tray. Her pet ferocious big tiger was nowhere to be found, either in the hands of a little Lolita or in the hands of CV-16, Kent has a royal blue dress. I don't know if you've seen it? That's the Victorian style. Then what? Sugu knew it and asked, what happens next? Yuxian said, Baroque and Rococo. Sugu hesitated, saying that his coverage was still not that broad. The multiple choice questions were okay, but the fill-in-the-blank questions were still not okay. In fact, he was just a parallel import. Yuxian smiled, and Changchun laughed, a bucket of water is not full, but half a bucket of water is sloshing around. Sugu joked and tried to change the subject. Since it is a coffee shop, there are naturally a lot of snacks. Remember that Yuxian can also make it, macarons, mousse, tiramisu. I asked Santiago for advice before, so I know a little bit. Yuxian is modest. As the supreme cook, she has that kind of talent. As long as she takes a look at cooking and understands it, she can easily learn it. It is like a sharing and likability. I also know how to make Japanese snacks. It's really. Sugu thought of something and got stuck in mid-sentence. Yuxian pursed his lips, The reason why I know Japanese materials is that from a historical perspective, the Yuxian had such an experience. It was sunk by Japanese bombers in the Jianjian naval battle, and then it was salvaged and rebuilt by the Japanese army, and was renamed Adoshian, until it was returned after the war. It's not so taboo anymore, history has passed. After Yuxian finished talking, Sugu didn't say much. He said, I still like traditional Chinese pastries. It seems that Yuxian hasn't made them for a long time. Pinghai has always done it. After all, Sugu is really good now. He said, I want to eat Yuxian's food, but Pinghai's food always feels a bit worse. Whatever the Admiral wants to eat, Yuxian will cook it for you. I don't know either. Sugu leaned on the wicker chair, but his attention was not on the ceiling. What's that called? Yuxian asked. Osmanthus cake. No. Dingsheng cake. It seems not. Begonia cake. Sugu suddenly said, actually, compared to these pastries, I still like steamed buns, soup dumplings, and siomai. Yuxian didn't know what expression to show for a while, and the topic jumped so quickly. Consultant Su, by the way, today is Tuesday, so you are still in charge of the canteen. What are you going to eat tonight? Admiral, what do you want to eat again? Others only have a big pot to eat. Sugu, as the Admiral, has the authority to turn on a small stove, but he doesn't usually use it. Sugu said shamelessly, I don't care, I'm not picky at all, chicken, duck, fish, whatever it is, as long as it's meat. As long as it's meat, why don't you choose? Yuxian said, eating meat every day is not good for your health. Sugu joked, eating meat every day is definitely better than being vegetarian every day. Yuxian patted the table lightly and said, Admiral, I won't confuse things. I didn't say that being vegetarian is better than eating meat. Well, I'm not asking Admiral to be a vegetarian. Eating meat every day is bad for your health, and being vegetarian every day is bad for your health. No, it's best to combine meat and vegetables. Carrots, onions, eggplants, leeks, mushrooms. Sugu gave many examples in succession. He defended, as for vegetables, I eat quite a lot. Green vegetables, I mean green vegetables. Yuxian's expression was a little fierce. Chinese cabbage, rapeseed flowers, spinach, wolfberry vegetables, lettuce leaves, all grown by me, not bought from outside. They are absolutely natural. I cook them in different ways every day. I won't eat it. I'll eat a little Chinese cabbage, not much. By the way, I won't eat lettuce. Let's talk about it, Sugu said, I'll still eat the lettuce. Eat it in burgers, don't eat it if it's fried. Yuxian said, same goes for cucumbers, and so does jicama. Eat them raw, but don't eat them after they're cooked. Sugu said, it's hard to eat cucumbers and cold potatoes when they're cooked. They taste really weird. What's weird? Everyone can eat it, but you can't eat it. Yuxian said, Admiral, you are really picky about food. In addition to what I just mentioned, there are many gourds, winter melons, and bitter melons. If you don't eat these, you won't eat that. Don't eat, I've never seen anyone so difficult to serve. Changchun made a face at Sugu. Yuxian stroked Changchun's smooth white hair, don't laugh at Admiral, you're not much better. Beef stew with potatoes. After the beef is finished, the potatoes are left. Sugu said, don't Changchun like to eat potatoes very much? Changchun put aside his head, if there is beef to eat, who likes to eat potatoes? Sugu paused, thinking that this was really the truth, and was choked by her words. Yuxian shouted, Admiral. You are responsible for finishing the stir-fried vegetables tonight. Okay, I'll eat, Sugu said deliberately, but in the end he didn't say anything. The reason was that Yuxian had a straight face and just turned to Changchun, but what about Changchun? Yuxian said, two of us together. Changchun glared at Sugu and sighed. Sugu was suddenly happy after dragging a person into the water, having someone accompany him, and having someone share his misfortune. Changchun said, "You want to eat too, what's so funny about it?" Sugu smiled even more happily. Yuxian said, "One dish for Changchun and 2 dishes for Admiral." This time it was Changchun's turn to laugh, but Sugu couldn't stop laughing. "Okay, Admiral, don't look so grim," Yuxian said, "as long as you finish your meal properly. I remember that you like meatloaf and steamed eggs, so I made this just for you." Sugu thought to himself, didn't he agree to reward him for touching his thigh? Changchun asked, "What about me?" Yuxian smiled, "You didn't." Alas. He was not worried about scarcity but about inequality. Changchun said, "Why?" Yuxian found that Sugu was lying on the table at some point, with his face resting on his forearm, looking at him. "Admiral, are you listening?" Sugu woke up, "Here." Yuxian lowered his head. There was nothing wrong with his clothes. He reached out to tuck his loose hair into his ears. His emerald earrings dangled and asked, "Admiral, what are you looking at?" "I didn't see anything," Sugu said. "Yuxian, you are so good to me, so." Sugu opened his mouth, intending to say something, but he felt something was wrong, so he stopped talking. Yuxian also felt something. "Yuxian." Sugu said it again and hesitated for a while, "I really like you." "I like it too, I like it too," Changchun said, "Sister Yuxian, I also like you the most." Yuxian knows that two people like each other differently. Sugu thought to himself, someone said, to seize a man's stomach is to seize a man's heart. This makes some sense, but it is certainly not absolute, and Yuxian is not just that. She can also perform paper cutting, opera, pipa, tailoring, flute and many more. In short, she is very versatile. She likes to take care of people, and has a gentle and kind personality, but she is also stern. Anyway, she has all the necessary qualities of a good wife and mother. The man takes charge of the outside and the woman takes charge of the house. There is absolutely no problem in leaving a home to her. Of course, she is also clumsy and not good at anything new. She is beautiful, and the tear mole in the corner of her eye is the finishing touch. She has a good figure, not a hot one, but just the right one. She has a pair of peerless beautiful legs, which does not mean that there is anything wrong with her elsewhere. This feeling of a family of 3. No, 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 Changchun is not a daughter, but a sister. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 935. In front of the complex. U-47, U-505, Xiaozai and other little Lolitas stood in a neat row from short to tall, with their hands behind their backs, or looking up at the sky. There were many seagulls circling in the sky, and there were also big birds whose names I don't know, or looking down at the ground, I saw swarms of black ants. The little lady Rodney held Nelson's hand and passed by, wondering why everyone was standing there. Then she looked at Sister Helena, who had moved a wicker chair and sat next to her. She was also Ardine, with her legs crossed and a book in her hand. Magazine, thinking that everyone must have been punished to stand. Guam came out of the complex building and saw something unusual here, and curiously asked, "These little guys are making trouble again, what are they doing?" Helena turned a page. This page was an advertisement, full of gorgeous jewelry. Turning another page, she said, "Ask them." Guam is definitely a heartless adult. She said with a smile, "Hey, hey, hey, what did you do to get punished?" No one spoke. Guam shouted again, "U-47, tell me." U-47 was furious, and she glanced at Helena, as if she had a tacit understanding. Helena just turned around and saw her, and she quickly lowered her head and pretended to be innocent. She thought to herself, Wasn't it just a matter of exploding a few cans? It was just a little loud, but it didn't hurt anyone. I didn't do anything, it was Lafayette who used a small cannon to sneak up on you. I was just watching the fun. Why should I be punished to stand together? It was Helena who explained the cause and effect of the matter. You naughty kids deserve it. Quam finally learned the truth, left such a sentence, smiled and left. Helena read most of the magazine and looked at her pocket watch. It was still early. Lafayette used to live with Helena, and she was most familiar with Helena. She said, "Well, Sister Helena, we have realized our mistake and we will not be upset anymore." However, she failed, and she only heard Helena say lightly, "If an apology is useful, what else do we need the police for?" After the first plan failed, another one came up. Lafayette looked aggrieved. "My feet are so numb." "Really," Helena said casually, "standing more will help blood circulation." To a certain extent, Lafayette's actions reminded Xiaozai, and she said, "Sister Helena, I like you the most." "I'm not an admiral," Helena sneered. She was not a lolicon. One moment she was serious and majestic, and the next moment she looked like a fool. Xiaozai did not give up. "Gentle and beautiful Sister Helena. No need to praise me, flattery is useless." Xiaozai continued, "The Admiral told me that he likes Sister Helena the most. Her personality is gentle, kind, and generous. Her long, smooth hair looks like silk. She is beautiful, and she is the best among all the people in the governor's mansion. Body. When I grow up, I also want to have the same body as Sister Helena." Helena still benefited from Xiaozai's words, but that was all. "Xiaozai, you want my figure? When you grow up, won't you be Beizai? Whatever she looks like, you will look like." She hates people saying that she will become Beizai when she grows up. Xiaozai doesn't care so much. She yells, "She is her, and I am me." The others finally came around and praised Helena one after another, especially the Admiral who liked her very much. "It's useless, don't waste your efforts." Helena shook her hand, thinking that nothing could be that easy, but the blush on her face betrayed her. After a few more minutes, everyone stopped, and Helena felt that she was almost done. She closed the magazine, raised her hands behind her back, stretched her waist, because the action of raising her chest was so thrilling. She took out her pocket watch and took a look. "I've finished reading the magazine, I'll get another one, you just stand here and don't run away." When Helena changed a magazine and came back, she found that all the little Lolita were gone. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At the same time, this is the coffee shop of the governor's mansion. Along with the grandfather clock located in the corner, the hourly bell rang dong 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 dash. Yuxian stood up from his seat. "Admiral, I have to leave, I have to prepare dinner." Go. Everyone chatted for a long time and wanted to speak several times, but in the end they didn't say anything more. Sugu watched Yuxian leave. In the kitchen of the cafeteria, Yuxian directed everyone to work. "Changchun, go play somewhere else and don't disturb us. Ning Hai Ping Hai, you guys beat the eggs. Chungqing, why are you looking at me like this?" Chungqing said, "Yuxian, you look very happy. What good things happened to you?" Yuxian replied, "No. As a girl, she is quite sensitive in some aspects." Chungqing asked, "Has the Admiral confessed his love to you?" The sky turned red under the evening sun, and the fire clouds were dazzlingly beautiful. Leipzig stood next to the lighthouse holding a camera, along with Jade and Enterprising. They preferred to shoot gossip, but they were also idle. Kirov took Tashkent with him, and they stood on the dock. Tashkent had recently learned photography from Kirov and was learning quickly. At this time, he was in Sugu's room. The drawer of the bedside table is wide open. This is the drawer specifically for rings. But it is not for matching rings. There are more than a dozen matching rings for each wedding ship. There is also a special drawer for collection. Here are the vow rings that everyone returned, 8 in total. Now they have all been taken back, and of course some have been spent. Anyway, there were several rings at the back. Except for the one in Mutsu's hand, I don't know who returned it. I just returned to the room one day and suddenly saw the ring on the desk. Sugu was sitting by the bed. There was an open red box beside him, and what he was playing with was the oath ring. Admiral. The sound suddenly sounded. Sugu turned around and saw Lexington. He almost subconsciously clenched his fists and hid the oath ring. Scared me. Lexington said, "Don't do anything bad, and don't be afraid of the ghost knocking on your door." Sugu calmed down. "What's the matter?" "It's okay, it's so dark and you don't turn on a light, can you see?" Lexington said and turned on the light in the room. It was true that Sugu usually liked a dim environment, and the thick curtains in the room were always closed. "Get up, it's fine in broad daylight, but it's really dark now." Sugu said, "It's a bit dark." Lexington sighed. "I said, Admiral, no need to hide, I saw it." Sugu knew it and asked, "What?" "Ring." Sugu let go of his hand and slumped his shoulders. He said, "I said it's so dark, but you can still see clearly what I'm holding." "You'll know just by looking at the box," Lexington said. "Who are you going to marry?" Sugu said, "Can't I take a look?" "No," Lexington said, "Admiral, if you look at the ring, there must be something ghostly about it." Sugu gave up. He couldn't win against Lexington. Lexington said, "Admiral is planning to give Mutsu a ring." Sugu hesitated for a moment, then replied, "No." Missouri 14, Richelieu 15. "So it's MRS 16 CV-16, Lexington said mischievously. "Ever since I learned that she likes small animals, the Admiral has accompanied me to Sichuanjiu flower and bird market and pet shop from time to time. One person is holding ginger and the other is holding fish cakes, and the two of them are sitting under the tree talking about detective novels. Obviously, they didn't read detective novels before. I can see that she now has almost a 100% favorable impression of the Admiral." Teasing me? Sugu knew very well where Lexington's weakness was, and he fired back, "No, it's not a ring for CV-16, it's for Phelps. She is so beautiful and well behaved, well, so tall, she is a girl. If you are not a little Lolita, you can get married and you don't need to join the gendarmerie." "You pervert," finally showed his weakness, Lexington said. "You actually want to marry your daughter?" Sugu smiled half-heartedly and looked at Lexington sideways. "What are you looking at?" It seemed that he was afraid of Phelps. He had been attacking her and forcibly giving her the nickname daughter. It was okay and she had no guilt. Lexington finally became so angry that she reached out and patted Sugu gently. "Yuxian, I asked you to marry her a long time ago." Sugu said, "Don't you know?" Lexington smiled. He didn't dare to say that he knew everything that happened in the garrison, but he was so confident about the Admiral's affairs. He had found something wrong since he came here during the New Year. Sugu held the oath ring and suddenly said, "I really feel a little sorry for you. I'm talking about you, Admiral, when you get a bargain but still behave well." Lexington said, "Now there are actually 15 wedding ships, and I don't know how many reserve players, and now you are saying this." Sugu suddenly didn't know how to speak. Lexington stood in front of Sugu, gently hugged his shoulders with both hands, and pressed his forehead against his. "It must be a lie to say that I don't mind. If possible, I really hope that the Admiral will only belong to me, even if it's Jia, I won't give it." Sugu said, Jia is your sister, my biological sister. Brothers still settle accounts." Lexington said, "Nothing else matters. Beautiful clothes, delicious food, or excellent equipment. I can help her wash clothes every day. I can help her wash clothes every day she combs her hair, but there are some things that men, admirals, and even sisters cannot let." Sugu said, in fact, she is also a wedding ship. Yes, she is also a wedding ship, and there are many people who are also a wedding ship. Lexington said, I really hope that the Admiral only belongs to me, but it is not possible. In this case, as long as the Admiral keeps Lexington in his heart, he will always like Lexington. Lexington would be nice. Sugu was moved, Madam. Lexington smiled mischievously again, no matter how many Admiral's wedding ships there are, even if there are 100. Sugu said, there can't be so many people. Isn't there 100? Let's go with 99. Anyway, it's been agreed that the Admiral will belong to me at least one day a week to sleep with. Lexington opened his hand, 10 times. This really won't work. Sugu hugged Lexington and laughed loudly, even if you ask Yuberry to invent some medicine for me to take, if it doesn't work, it won't work. Then you must hold me and say many love words. Sugu said, how about starting from night to day? No, Lexington said, you still have to leave a few hours to sleep, otherwise the Admiral's body will not be able to bear it. There is still a closed season for fishing. I am not Colorado. I ask for more every day. I don't know how to maintain it. I only know that fishing when the lake is exhausted. Sugu didn't know what expression was better to show. He was silent for a moment and then said, after saying so much, Lexington actually still cares about it. I care, of course I care. Lexington sat down next to Sugu and lay on the bed, with his long flaxen hair spread out. It turns out that he does care, even though the Admiral already has 8 wedding ships. Now one after another, he is really used to it. Otherwise I would have been mad to death. Lexington continued, actually, no matter what, as long as the Admiral stays with us like he did before, he will never leave again. Does the Admiral know? The period when you left was, for Lexington, the world is all black and white, without luster. Although he said it over and over again, Sugu said, don't worry, I won't leave. If you leave again. Lexington said, as long as you capture the Admiral, it will be formaldehyde. Sugu was afraid that it would be difficult to get off the boat if he got on the boat. It was not until dinner time that Sugu entered the cafeteria. As soon as he entered, he saw Yuxian sitting in the corner waving to him. Sugu walked over. When he saw what was placed in front of Yuxian, his shoulders immediately dropped. You really fried the vegetables, aren't you kidding? Yuxian said, of course it's not a joke. Sugu picked up a piece of green vegetables with his chopsticks and looked at it. He felt a bitter taste in his mouth before eating it. An obvious question is that Yuxian is the supreme cook, not a god, so she still has to pay attention to the basic laws. There is no such thing as luminous cuisine. Green vegetables cannot have a meaty taste. They should taste as they should, at most a little more delicious. Seeing Sugu stop, Yuxian couldn't help but ask, are green vegetables so unpalatable? Yuxian's cooking must be delicious. Sugu decided to take a slow approach. He looked around, where is Changchun? I don't know, I didn't see her. Yuxian said, she must have escaped. That guy. Sugu was indignant and touched his pocket, just right. Yuxian said, so I leave her bowl to you. It's not good, Sugu said. Yuxian said, it cannot be wasted. Okay, it's okay, I can do it. Do you have any chili? Sugu took his chopsticks and poked around in the green vegetables. Yuxian said, no. Admiral, eat quickly. So many green vegetables, Sugu said, it's just a bowl of meat patties and steamed eggs, I guess. Yuxian said, what else does the Admiral want? Sugu bit his lip, made up his mind, put down his chopsticks, leaned on the dining table, and said with a big smile, then, I choose you, how about it? What did you say? Yuxian paused, and after a moment she came to her senses. She glanced at Sugu, lowered her head without shyness, and said with a shallow smile, okay. Sugu said, Yuxian must like poetry. Sugu said, I have been thinking about it for a long time, but unfortunately my education is low and it doesn't feel right. Do you know that the exquisite dice and the red beans make you miss me deeply? Sugu said, still, I only hope that your heart will be like mine, and you will live up to your love. Sugu said, I feel this is the best sentence. Sugu hesitated for a moment. The agreement between life and death is broad, tell Zikan. Yuxian said, hold your hand and grow old together with me. Chungqing was sitting not far away. She pricked her ears and heard clearly. She thought to herself, don't you find it embarrassing? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 936. Sugu didn't want to hide it at all. There was no use in hiding such things, so the fact that Yuxian got the ring and successfully turned it into a wedding ship didn't wait until the next day. That night, the news spread around the town hall and most people knew about it. It was still early and the cafe was still open. Guam sat in front of the bar holding a glass of Coke, lying on the bar, smiling and stretching out his white palms. After Richelieu, Yuxian became the wedding ship, not Washington, so I won, Nevada, bracelet, mine bracelet. Don't worry, it's yours. Why are you in such a hurry? Aren't you worried about my character? Nevada is a rough and arrogant Western cowboy, not a girl with a delicate heart. Jewelry and other items are not worth mentioning. York City rubbed her hands and smiled really meanly. She said, well, Nevada, keep your word. That dagger belongs to me now. Okay, yours. Nevada was not angry. This time she really felt a little sad. The dagger requested by York City was now hanging in her room. It was not a handicraft or a weapon bought in a store, but a bar in a faraway continent called the City of Criminals that I had been looking after for others before I returned to the garrison. To a certain extent, it could be considered a gangster. Kill enemies and occasionally get loot. It is said that it was salvaged from the sea. No wonder it feels very friendly at first sight. Ha, my sister, I'll leave you with the change of clothes for the next half-month. Sister, you must set a good example and don't cheat again. Oklahoma's stakes were small. Nevada said, even if you are my sister, if you slander me, I will not be polite. I will ask why I am cheating. Alaska smoothed her long pink hair, hugged her sister Guam from behind, and rested her chin on her sister's shoulder. She was overjoyed. Ha, Nevada, your set of darts and dartboard now belong to me. Nevada said, that was a gift from the Admiral, so can you exchange it for another one? No. Alaska said, please don't say anything, the gift from the Admiral is an extremely precious gift, and this is the only one that won't do. He sent a lot of gifts, and he is still in the garrison and has not left, one or two. It's definitely a problem. And since it's a gift from the Admiral and it's really important, why would you gamble on it? Nevada was speechless for a moment and didn't know how to explain it. He waved his hand, meaning you can take it? The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Why? Why am I so unlucky? Didn't I say I was lucky in Nevada? Obviously everyone has about the same luck. The green-haired crane Ruhi is so lucky, and Santiago is so bad at playing cards. He only knows a few rules, but he can't stand up to good cards, and he can win in random games. Take it away, take it away, take it all. Nevada picked up the wine glass, drank a large glass of beer in one gulp, and then slammed it on the bar. Juno stood behind the bar, wiping the wine glass with a white cloth, pouting, betting that the dog would not be saved, so let's jump off the rooftop. Nevada lowered his head and held his forehead with his left hand. Richelieu becomes the wedding ship and prepares for a grand bet on who will be the Admiral's next wedding ship. Unexpectedly, Just after the market opened, Washington came to the door with an axe. He couldn't kneel down and beg for mercy. He finally got forgiveness and put on a maid costume to act as a maid. How could it be possible to give up so easily, but you must hide it carefully so that it cannot be known to Washington again. Just bet on whether Washington will be the next wedding ship. The risk is a bit high, but if you win with a small gain, you can make several times the profit. Take a gamble, take a chance, and the bicycle will become a motorcycle, and the motorcycle will become a jeep. Only invite a few reliable people to participate, like Helena. She can't control her mouth, at least in front of the admiral. If the admiral finds out, it will be uncontrollable later, and the attackers are idiots, so they invited Rabbit Princeton. She actually had no interest in not participating. I originally wanted to make a lot of money, but now I have lost it all. Nevada thought while shaking his head, let's talk about Washington. Although it is not a secretary ship, it is basically stationed in the office. As a barrister, he often travels with the admiral. For some expedition contracts and messy disputes, there is no progress at all for so long. No. Missouri and the admiral are so compatible and close, and she has the ability to challenge Lexington, so we won't talk about her. Richelieu and Washington are evenly matched, and we can win or lose, but we won't talk about it either. Nevada said, I really can't figure it out. Uxian can also overtake her car, this is too inferior and useless. He also laughed at South Dakota for being fat. After all, South Dakota has a ring. As Nevada spoke, he noticed that no one was talking. He suddenly noticed a woman wearing a black jacket and long white hair tied into a ponytail sitting next to him, with her hands on the bar and her legs crossed. Nevada pretended not to see anything, and continued, really, I have to say that the admiral is really blind. Our Washington, our president, she is so beautiful and cute, with such a good figure, hotness and ability outstanding, absolutely wonderful wife, can't fault her at all. Nevada turned around and pretended to suddenly notice Washington. Hey, Washington, why are you here? Without saying a word, Washington took out resin from his waist and placed it on the bar. Nevada knelt down again and hugged Washington's legs. Sister, I'm sorry, I was wrong, really wrong. Juno packed up her things and started to prepare to close the business. Looking at Nevada's ugly appearance, she sneered repeatedly, you are not Carmichael, and Washington is not Veneto. Dumpling Essex and CV-16 sit next to each other. The bald eagle Belmachan stood on Essex's shoulder and babbled, that guy wants to die. Are you kidding me? I want to cause trouble for him, but he dares to bully our CV-16. Uxian, I don't know anything Uxian, if MRS-16 is not MRS-16, what would it be like? Shut up, Teacher Bell. CV-16 didn't pay much attention to the so-called MRS-16, it was just a nickname. Bald Eagle Belmachan shouted, CV-16, don't be sad, it's no big deal, there is no obstacle that you can't overcome. Cry when you are really sad, don't pretend to be indifferent for the sake of face. Sad, uncomfortable, depressed, if you don't venting it out will be bad for your health. CV-16 couldn't listen anymore and grabbed the beak of the bald eagle Belmachan without any courtesy. Tell me, Teacher Bell, keep talking. Essex also said, Bell, you really talked too much this time, and my sister is even angry. CV-16 said, Mr. Bell, please stop talking. If you promise me not to talk anymore, just nod and I will let you go. The bald eagle Belmachan nodded, until CV-16 let go. It flapped its wings and flew away, shouting, I don't have a ring, so I was very upset. CV-16 actually started attacking the teacher. Does it get darker as you draw it? No, it's just that some guy is too self-righteous. When CV-16 was filled with hatred, Bumblebee happened to pass by. She said, CV-16, it's okay. Lexington has already made the decision. You are the 16th wife. Yuxian can only be the 17th wife. Don't worry. Bar. CV-16 turned to Bumblebee and yelled, "Big ass." Bumblebee subconsciously covered his butt, feeling a little aggrieved, thinking that his good intentions were not rewarded. Soon it was late into the night. This is Yuxian's room, decorated in an antique style. Yuxian sat by the bed, stroking the oath ring on his left index finger. He looked at the Admiral sitting not far away. He seemed a little uncomfortable. Was he nervous? Anyway, I am a little nervous and a little dazed. Does this count as a couple? After so many years, the clouds finally cleared and the moon shone brightly. Sugu sat next to the solid wood round table, stood up again, walked to the wall, put his hand on the wall, and asked Yuxian, "Is the room next to you in Chongqing?" We all left the Toot Larry mansion to wander around together, and then returned to the Toot Larry mansion together. With such a deep friendship, it might be a bit inconvenient to live together, but the conditions did not allow it, and the rooms were naturally connected together. Yuxian replied, "Yes, that is the room in Chongqing, and beyond that is the room in Ning'ai and Pinghai." Dong dong dong. Suguk tapped the wall with her finger and said, "Tell me about Chongqing." Will she stick to the wall and eavesdrop? Yuxian thought for a while. She understood Chongqing's character and said, "It's possible." Sugu opened his mouth, but hesitated. In front of the graceful Yuxian, he was embarrassed to say naughty words. He hesitated. It seems that there is nothing that can be done to her. It is her room, and we can't drive her away. The most we can do is give an explanation, but if she really wants to hear it, it's useless to give an explanation. It may also happen that she didn't care at first, but after we explain it, she becomes rebellious. Sugu sat down again, glanced at Yuxian again, and murmured to himself, "It doesn't feel right, it's so fast." Yuxian was puzzled. Sugu said, "I suddenly thought that I just gave the ring and immediately ran to Yuxian's room." "Where else do you want to go, Admiral?" Yuxian said, "at least stay here with Yuxian today." "That's not what I mean," Sugu said, "I mean, marriage, wedding, what are the steps of a Chinese wedding?" Yuxian pursed his lips, "Accept, ask for the name, accept the invitation, ask for an appointment, welcome personally." Sugu still knew a little bit about what the words in Yuxian's mouth meant. He shook his body and said, "Yuxian is my ship girl. I built it, and she has been living in the governor's mansion since then. We are all family members. There seems to be no way to implement these steps." Sugu continued, "Omit it, first bow to the heaven and earth, second bow to the high hall and husband and wife to worship each other. These can be included, but they are not." Yuxian said, "No one has a wedding." Sugu said, "My question." Sugu looked around. It had been several months since he last came to Yuxian's room. The place was the same as before, but there seemed to be a little difference. The potted plants on the windowsill had denser branches and leaves. The floor fan placed in the corner was not visible. It was probably placed there. Entering the warehouse, there is not a single red candle in the room, and there is not a single word on the wall. Sugu looked at Yuxian again. She was still wearing the same clothes as in the morning. It was not a cheongsam. She was wearing a white short coat, a blue tube top, a blue belt, and a skirt underneath, which is a double-breasted skirt, which is also a hanfu. Yuxian's phoenix crown and harem are not there, and the red hijab is not there. Nothing. Sugu opened his mouth and suddenly laughed. Why is it that he seems to be asking for a concubine? He was carried in the door on a sedan chair. Yuxian said, "Isn't she just a concubine? The Admiral's wife from the 17th room." "Nanda is not fat," so Sugu said, Why is she MRS 17? Immortal number, the 14th wife is Missouri, the 15th wife is Richelieu, the 16th wife is CV-16, so it is the 17th wife. Sugu defended, CV-16 doesn't count, everyone is just joking. Yuxian said, everyone usually talks about MRS CV-16, you're MRS 16, and the admiral seems to have always acquiesced. I have defended it, but it is of no use, so I can only let it go. Sugu hesitated for a moment, thinking to himself that this was nothing more than taking advantage of the girl's family, just like occasionally calling West Virginia his daughter-in-law on purpose. A greasy middle-aged man with an increasingly bad character. Yuxian said, even if she is MRS 16, she is still a concubine. Sugu said, there is no eldest wife, no concubine, no one is superior or inferior, everyone is an important wife. A wedding is just a trivial matter, just a formality, the admiral's thoughts are the most important. Yuxian was really happy to get the ring. She said jokingly, isn't the eldest lady Lexington? I still want to pour her tea tomorrow and call her sister. Sugu's expression was twisted, of course he knew Yuxian was joking. The time is too short, there is no wedding, no phoenix crown and harem, we will make up for it later. Sugu looked at the teapot and teacups placed on the round table, but this, let's have a glass of wine. Yuxian said, I don't have any wine here. Replace wine with tea. Sugu looked at Yuxian's rosy face, stood up, poured 2 cups of tea, one in each hand, walked to the bedside and handed Yuxian a cup. Yuxian took the teacup, and their wrists hooked together. Yuxian raised his head and drank the tea together with Sugu, revealing his beautiful white neck, like a beautiful swan. After drinking a glass of wine, Yuxian glanced at Sugu and found that he was also looking at her. When she thought of something, her breathing suddenly became rapid, her chest heaved, she didn't know what to do, and her face burned. It was quiet for a while, only to hear the sound of waves hitting the rocks. After all, he has been through it before, and has even experienced it many times, which can be said to be rich in experience. So it was up to him to break the silence. Sugu shouted, Siener. Yuxian smiled, Admiral, don't scream, it's so disgusting. That, Yuxian. Sugu said, it's very late. Yuxian couldn't be so generous, so she lowered her head. Sugu wanted to say a poem to praise someone, but couldn't think of a suitable one for a while. He was a little nervous and had to give up in the end. He hesitated, then took off Yuxian's hairpin and placed it on the bedside table. Her bun was spread out, and her long black and bright hair fell down, like a waterfall. Yuxian said, Admiral, lamp. Sugu turned off the bedside lamp, leaving only the faint moonlight streaming in from the window in the room. He reached out and gently hugged Yuxian. All in all, thousands of words are condensed into one sentence, and the hibiscus tent warms the spring night. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 937. Early morning. The sky is still bright. If there were fewer people in the town hall, they could go to bed a little later and get up later. With so many people now, especially if there are a lot of foodies among them, whoever is responsible for preparing breakfast for everyone must get up early and start preparing, otherwise it may be too late. Ning Hai, bring me a glass of water. Her medium-long gray hair was simply tied up into a side ponytail, and she wore a floral apron. Ning Hai found the enamel cup and turned on the faucet. The water flowed out. She took a full cup and said, I'll put it in. It's on the table. Good. Ping Hai responded, picked up the enamel cup, poured some water on the dough, and started kneading the dough again. He subconsciously glanced at the round clock hanging on the wall and asked curiously, Ning Hai, don't you think it's a little strange? Yuxian, why hasn't sister come yet? There is no hope for Chang Chun. She has to sleep in every day. She tried to help in the past, but she only got up early once, but she was not helpful at all. Sister Chungching comes from a British background and became a monk halfway through, but she was almost the last one to come. Sister Yuxian usually gets up the earliest. Every time everyone comes, she is already working. However, when I and my sister came today, the lights in the kitchen were not on. It was rare that Sister Yuxian was late. The screen door of the kitchen was pushed open and Chungching walked in. She heard Ping Hai's words and said funnily, "Yuxian, your sister Yuxian may not be able to come today." Ping Hai asked, "Why?" "Don't you know?" Chungching said, "Sister Yuxian, she got the admiral's ring last night and successfully became a wedding ship. Our fishery administration finally has a wedding ship, and then, well, I won't need it later. Just tell me." I know that Sister Yuxian became a wedding host. Ping Hai was still puzzled, but what does her becoming a wedding host have to do with her not being able to come today? Are you still little girls? What are you going to do after you get married? The bridal chamber. Chungching thought for a moment, and there were some things that were really hard to say. Forget it if I don't know. Anyway, you just need to know that your sister Yuxian won't be able to come today. Sister Chungching, Ning Hai said coquettishly, "Tell us, why?" Chungching smiled slyly, "When the time comes, you can ask her yourself." "Forget it if you don't tell me," Ning Hai said. "Sister Chungching, I hate you." "No, I really can't say it." "Even if you hate me, I can't say it." Chungching took off the apron from the wall and put it on, putting his hands behind his back to tie the apron. Ning Hai was helpless. Okay. Ping Hai saw Chungching again and asked in surprise, "Sister Chungching, your eyes are dark circles. Did you not sleep last night?" "Can't sleep." Chungching touched his eyes, smiled awkwardly, and changed the subject. "No more, there are only 3 of us today, so hurry up and work, otherwise we will be busy." The dim light shines into the room from the window. Looking around, you can only vaguely see the tall wardrobe, screen, dressing table, round table, guhan placed in the corner, pipa hanging on the wall, hazy an outline, a rough outline. Although he didn't go to bed until late at night, he was used to getting up early. Under the influence of his biological clock, Yuxian woke up. Her smooth fingers stretched out from the quilt and picked up the alarm clock on the bedside table. She woke up a little later than usual today. Her hand touched the bedside lamp again. Just as she was about to turn it on and off, she took it back. Today was different from the past. A warm feeling enveloped him from the side, and Yuxian felt the strong chest on his back, as well as the arms that were hugged and placed on his chest before going to bed. The palms that had been causing trouble at night were now solid. "This was the first time that I slept with a man without even a single piece of clothing. My favorite admiral finally became my husband. She has finally transformed from a young girl into a young woman. She used to be said to be a married woman, but now she has truly become a married woman. We need help in the cafeteria," Yuxian thought to himself, and gently took his arm off his body, trying to get up. Yuxian is up. When the sound rang, Yuxian had not gotten up yet, but just moved slightly on the bed. Suddenly a pair of arms hugged her, and their skins were tightly pressed together again. Yuxian shouted, "Admiral!" Yuxian said, "Sorry for waking you up." Sugu narrowed his eyes, "It's okay." That. Before Yuxian finished speaking, Sugu interrupted her, "Go to sleep." Yuxian, that beautiful, gentle, strong, kind and profound person, she is now his wife and is in his arms. Now I am qualified to say this, it is an absolutely beautiful body, soft and warm, and it is so comfortable to hold. Sugu rubbed Yuxian's hair, unwilling to let go for a moment. Yuxian curled up, feeling a little shy about the current state of the two of them, even though the most intimate relationship had occurred. But she knew very well that if she didn't say anything, her admiral would definitely carry her until dawn. Admiral, I, I, I want to go to the cafeteria, let go of me. Today is Wednesday. Sugu said, you are still in charge of the canteen. Yes. Yuxian, please don't go. There should be no problem with the three of them. As an admiral, Sugu still knows how many people are needed in the canteen and how much time it takes to prepare breakfast for so many people in the governor's mansion. One sentence, at least today. Yuxian said, if you don't go, they will definitely complain. Absolutely not, Sugu said, today is such an important day and it is only one day. They also know it. It would be too unkind to complain. Yuxian added, they will laugh at me. What's the joke? Sugu said, I'm jealous. Yuxian still wanted to say. Sugu hugged her tightly, I won't let you go anyway. I said it's okay to be lazy for a day now and then. May can just take a nap. Yuxian hasn't given up yet, I can't fall asleep when I wake up. Sugu was also persistent, then I'll chat with you. Aren't you going to sleep? I can't sleep with this beauty in my arms. Okay, Yuxian finally agreed reluctantly and could only be willful for one day. In fact, she couldn't bear to come from the admiral's warm embrace. What are you talking about? Sugu said casually. Yuxian, behind the dormitory building is your territory, where you grow vegetables and raise chickens. I remember that I raised a big rooster before. It started screaming at a certain point, and it lasted for several days, not counting 1 or 2 days, until someone finally complained, so that night it became spicy chicken. No matter what, it is wrong to cause trouble to others, Yuxian said, I didn't think of this either. Sugu said, speaking of which, the spicy chicken tastes good, it seems like I haven't eaten spicy chicken for a long time. Yuxian said, let's do it tonight. I'm just saying casually. Sugu suddenly laughed, Yuxian is more tasty. Yuxian naturally understood the meaning of Sugu's words, and she said, not serious. Sugu said, forget it about big roosters. It's too annoying to crow every day. Now I raise hens instead. I think of those little Lolita again. One of their favorite things is to hear the hens clucking after laying eggs. And then ran to pick up eggs. Yuxian said, it seems that last month, U-47 picked up an egg. The egg was very big. I told her it was a double yolk egg, and then she asked me to fry a poached egg for her to eat at night. But I forgot to tell Ningai and Pinghai. When I found out, the double yolk egg was gone, but fortunately U-47 didn't blame me. Although she is a bit naughty, U-47 is still very sensible, Sugu said. Speaking of naughty, I remember that when I found her, she got angry because she had been away for too long and dragged me into the sea. Is the admiral okay? It's okay, Sugu smiled again. I made her cry again later, although I didn't mean to. What happened? Sugu said, let me think about it. It seems to be because of some trick on people's brains. What kind of brain teaser is there to tease people? I can't remember exactly, it's something like. Sugu said, Yuxian, let me ask you a question. There is an idiot who doesn't know anything when you ask her. Do you know what her name is? Being clueless and without any clues, Yuxian said, I don't know. Sugu laughed. Yuxian was puzzled, and after a moment he came to his senses and curled up his mouth. Let me test you again, Sugu said. Yuxian, you are walking in the wild. There is a wolf on the left and a ghost on the right. You only have one arrow in your hand. Do you shoot the wolf or the ghost? Yuxian thought about it for a moment and didn't think much about it. It was just for fun anyway. She replied, shoot ghosts. Sugu said word by word, Yuxian is a pervert. Yuxian chuckled, the admiral is the pervert. Yes, Sugu said, I am a pervert. Yuxian said quietly, Admiral, your hands. For some reason, Sugu was not so bold in front of Yuxian. He retracted his hand angrily and placed it on Yuxian's flat, soft belly. Who told you to call me a pervert? Yuxian said, pervert, I heard from Changchun that you gave her the ring. Sugu quickly explained, that's what she asked me for. Yuxian said, but she's not young anymore, so it's okay. Sugu said, I don't know what you mean. Happy time always passes very quickly. The spring night is short and the sun is shining brightly. The two people are talking casually. Soon the sun rises and the sky is bright. Yuxian got up first, and Sugu lay on the table watching her get dressed. Until she got dressed and walked into the bathroom, he slowly got up. Thrush and so on is another interesting thing. Soon after, the two went out together and came to the cafeteria. There are not many people here yet. Xianxiang is drinking milk, Blucher is eating rice noodles, the college has not started yet so soon, the Colossus as a faculty member has not gone back yet. She got up quite early, turned their heads one by one. Sugu was of course a dead pig and was not afraid of being scalded by boiling water. Yuxian looked fine, but suddenly there was a noisy sound. Sugu, come here. Sugu only saw the bald eagle Belmacan standing on the bench. Next to it was the white-haired girl Dumpling Essex, and opposite it was also a dumpling, the cold and charming girl CV-16. Sugu, Yuxian is also here, just right. The bald eagle Belmacan obviously doesn't know its status. It is the lowest in the entire town, and it doesn't realize it. Sugu, let me ask you, is Yuxian 10? MRS 6, or is CV-16 MRS 16? What a mess, Sugu thought, and he shouted, Belmacan, do you want to go into the little black cage again? Or do you want to stew the eagle? The bald eagle Belmacan's body trembled obviously. The latter must be a joke, but the little black cage is really scary, and it is an improved version of Yuberry, mighty and unyielding. I must do it for my student CV-16 to seek justice. No one can bully her, she is the authentic MRS 16, Yuxian can only be the MRS 17. Sugu turned to CV-16 and the girl said, Admiral, ignore it. That's it. Yuxian smiled amusedly, CV-16, don't worry, you are MRS 16, I am just MRS 17. Sugu looked at Yuxian again and thought, what are you talking about? Yuxian said, CV-16 must be MRS 16. I don't want to guard the mansion with two MRS 16. Sugu felt a little headache. Bald Eagle Belmacan said proudly, CV-16, did you hear that? Now you are MRS 16, and I helped you get it? No one dares to disobey me. When the two were about to get breakfast, Yuxian asked Sugu, Admiral, I heard you say that CV-16 had a good chance of becoming our sister. So, historically. Sugu explained, he thought to himself, he just heard that during the honeymoon period between China and the United States, China had a good chance of getting CV-16. If China gets CV-16, then today there will be a girl who wears cheongsam every day. She is absolutely cute, giving her a set of cheongsam another day will make up for the regret. It is said that the hull number of my country's current aircraft carrier Liaoning is CV-16. It would be great to get her if you have a chance. It's a pity, otherwise we would all be sisters. Yuxian laughed again, but now we can also be sisters. Admiral, please work hard. Sugu turned around and saw CV-16 still covering his face with his hands, feeling that the two of them would be forced to get married one day. Soon it was morning again, in the coffee shop. Sugu sat down across from Missouri. Missouri blinked, how are Yuxian leg fairy's legs? Sugu opened his mouth little by little, but he was stunned. He couldn't think of so much at night, I actually forgot to touch it. Pity. It doesn't matter. Sugu waved his hand. Now that he is married to Yuxian, his beautiful legs can be touched at any time. Of course, he still has to be in a place where no one is around. Someone is walking by. Well, Sugu said, Nevada, what are you doing? Nevada said, what's the problem? It's a big problem, okay, Sugu couldn't help complaining. He thought to himself, it's still winter, the cafe has no heating, and the indoor temperature is not high. Why did you, Nevada, take the wrong medicine and wear a revealing bunny girl costume? Although it is sexy, it is very sexy. Missouri slapped the table, laughing so hard that she told the interesting things that happened last night. Sugu shook his head, it's your own fault. Nevada was dissatisfied, you care about me. Sugu said, I am the admiral, I can really control you. Nevada suddenly thought of something, squatted next to Sugu, and asked in a low voice, hey, Admiral, can you tell me in advance who you will marry next? You are really hopeless. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 938. Sugu originally just said it casually. He really didn't expect that Nevada would play such a big game, dare to open the market under such circumstances, and even learn to build momentum. In fact, he was not sure that it was her. She should not be so brave. All in all, this was another few days after Sugu married Yuxian. CV-16 is firmly on the throne of the 16th wife, and the 17th wife of Yuxian. Everyone in the town hall unanimously agrees that it is over. It was obviously me who came first, whether it was kissing the admiral, holding hands, or hugging. Why didn't I have a ring? In fact, whether I joined the governor's office at the beginning or returned to the governor's office, Mutsu was ranked behind Yitsun. She was the one who got there first. Even because her actions were too fast and her nature was too bad, she was now unanimously opposed by all the wedding ships. Originally, we all relied on our own abilities, and we were willing to accept defeat and bet on who would win, and maybe we could get into a high position. While everyone was out doing small tricks, they were caught doing something, and they could only be the little girl. Xianghe, let's just call it self-inflicted, actually refused the ring and kept saying that everyone's feelings were not enough. Seeking benevolence will lead to benevolence. Several months have passed, but now there is not much progress. There is no regret medicine in the world. It is better to accept the ring at that time and think about the love after marriage. It is actually very good. There's been a lot of fuss these days. The admiral is too cruel. Washington has paid so much for the garrison, and she has worked so hard, but she has nothing. When it comes to liking the admiral, Washington is definitely no worse than anyone else, but she misses the ring again and again. Faced with South Dakota showing off again and again, she is dismissive on the surface. She is cold on the outside and hot on the inside. She must be hot on the inside. Just cry silently. If the admiral doesn't give Washington the ring, it will be unreasonable and heaven will strike him with lightning. Go on, Admiral, continue to ignore Washington's wishes, and you'll have to take a hit from the falling cherry blossom god axe. Indeed, Washington is working very hard. Returning to the tutelage, she began to study the legal provisions of the location of the tutelage, as well as the relevant legal provisions involving the admiral, the ship's mother and the tutelary. In addition, she also read typical cases, all of which were densely packed with words and explanations. Based on Qing's logic, all the books were stacked up and were half a meter high. As an admiral, there were only a few people guarding the mansion at the time. Sugu couldn't be like now, where he didn't need to do anything and had to stand up and take responsibility. In fact, he had finished reading it, but it was only to the extent of going through it once. Anyway, Washington is a lawyer and an expert. Once any disputes arise between the town government and outside companies, governments, or people, she needs to intervene. Although Sugu can do it, she does it better, often quoting classics and evidence to refute her opponents. Talk. In addition, since she grew up, She has been training hard every day. The past few months have been somewhat successful. As the flagship, they led a group of American students, the 3 Colorado sisters, and the 2 Missouri sisters. The little Lolita North Carolina and South Dakota were not too interested in the exercise. In the confrontation between the Ying Chui team, there were more wins than losses in several encounters. Do you care that much? Don't care at all. We can't let others cause trouble. This afternoon, Washington tried to find the source. Who took the lead? He must teach that guy a lesson. Nevada, is that you? Nevada leaned against the wall, trembling all over. No, no, it's really not. One more time, it won't be a bunny girl, you will be naked for me. Washington knows very well that South Dakota fatty certainly does not have this brain. Opponents often know themselves better than themselves. This sentence is not without some truth. Nevada was her first thought. This guy was a repeat offender. However, judging from her innocent expression, it seemed that it had nothing to do with her. Wisconsin, is that you? Washington found another pretty girl with short hair. This guy was not a good person either. Am I that boring? Wisconsin was so powerful, no matter if it was her or not, there was absolutely no way you could see anything from her face. Guam, you smile so happily, it must be you. Gwanda looked at the cold light on the axe blade and raised her hands. Sister Tou Mingjian, I was wronged. Qinwei, please tell the truth. Avant-garde innocent face. The lion stood up. Washington, are you bullying our British family? Sorry, just kidding. Washington thought about it, but she really didn't know who was the culprit. She was so incompetent and furious. In the past, everyone said that Richelieu was the one who hated to get married. Since she became a wedding ship, the person who hated to get married became herself. Ignore the corner of the coffee shop, this is a daily routine. Camicia swung her legs and looked at Veneto, but hesitated to speak because Veneto was staring at her with the coffee cup in his hand. Another question, why is Veneto holding the coffee cup? I have persisted for so long without any results. It is impossible to grow up anyway, as long as I am no longer small, the fragrant coffee is really great. Washington was not easy to mess with, and now she was angry. No one in the coffee shop dared to talk about her affairs. They only dared to discuss other things. Xiao Zai must be number 1. No one is her opponent. She is the hidden devil, but fortunately she is just a little lowly. Secondly, Lexington is well deserved. The main reason is that the maid has no ambition in terms of reputation. Otherwise, she will know what the admiral wants just by his eyes and movements, without even needing anything. She is definitely Lexington's powerful opponent. Ben, I thought Missouri would do a lot by becoming a wedding ship, but I was wrong about her. Now that Yuxian has become a wedding ship, she has caught up, but she is still a little short of challenging Lexington. I think Reputation, Missouri, and another Yuxian, the 3 of them will compete for the 3rd position. Others feel a little bit worse in every aspect. There is a Katio shot on the head, a pair of fluffy ears, blonde twin ponytails, a black and white maid outfit with a beautiful bow tied on the chest, and the black tail also tied with a bow is raised. It cannot be swung around because it is just for decoration. Andrea, there was also a guest appearance as a maid, where she walked by with a plate of snacks and placed them on a table. Master, please use it at your leisure, Andrea greeted and walked away. Saratoga took a piece of snack and put it into her mouth and sneered. She was not laughing at Andrea's maid outfit. Ellie's daughter was not a parallel import. She was absolutely adorable in the maid outfit. She was laughing at the comments around her. People. Brother-in-law's first favorite is Xiao Zhe. There's really no argument for this, to be honest, I really don't understand why he likes her so much. Is it just because she's the cutest in the world? Saratoga shook her head. The most beautiful girl in the world. A cute person is amazing, he just does whatever he wants. Second is my sister. I don't have anything to say. My sister is just so awesome. But the third is definitely me, guaranteeing 3 for 2. Whether it's Missouri, reputation, or now another Euxian, they can only eat my exhaust. Saratoga looked at Bizai. Bizai, what are you looking at? Did I say something wrong? Yes, yes, you are absolutely right. If he said more, Saratoga would never stop talking. Bizai is not stupid, on the contrary, she is very smart. She is usually just too lazy to think about problems. She picked up the comics again. Reading comics is more important. Saratoga snorted, or, Bizai, do you want to say that you are the third one? Bizai said, I didn't say it was me. Saratoga said, you are always at the bottom of the rankings. I don't know if you are in the top 5. Just work hard. Bizai hesitated and said, the Admiral said, everyone is equal. There's definitely a 1 2 3, Saratoga said. Okay, Bizai responded. She didn't care about the ranking at all, as long as the Admiral still helped her cover up. I don't know why my sister is so sharp lately. She can find the notebook no matter where it is hidden, but she doesn't know there is a traitor. Saratoga saw Bizai's head buried again, and she said, Bizai, please stop reading comics and listen to me. Oh. Except for one person, anyone can bully Bizai. Saratoga unceremoniously took the comic from Bizai's hand. I told you not to read it, I took it away. Alas. Bizai said weakly, give it back to me. Saratoga said, you listen to me, and I'll give it back to you when I'm done. Bizai said, speak quickly. Why do you say I'm third? Saratoga asked, shaking the comic book. Bizai is a good listener, so he forced me to say, why? Saratoga puffed up her chest proudly. Regardless of her young age, her capital is really strong. My sister is the first person to marry my brother-in-law, and I follow closely behind. Bizai wanted to say something, but finally didn't speak. Saratoga laughed, although everyone has one now, but a long time ago, apart from my sister, I was the only one who had a wedding dress. They said bridesmaid dress, where is the bridesmaid dress? It's just that the skirt is shorter, there is a veil, and there is a headband. The gauze must be a wedding dress, and short wedding dresses are very fashionable now. So, from the side, apart from my sister, my brother-in-law likes me. Bizai thought to himself, except for you and Lexington, no one else has a suitable wedding dress. Saratoga looks cold and cold, but in front of her good friends, she still talks a lot. When my brother-in-law left the garrison, the first people to find him were Zayazai, my sister and I. Bizai asked, isn't it San Juan? San Juan doesn't count, she was just passing by. Saratoga said, anyway, we spend the longest time with my brother-in-law. And you don't know, I used to go to school and was scolded by the teacher. Don't ask me why I was scolded. I get angry just thinking about it. My brother-in-law just came to see me, he is such a good-tempered person, and he scolded the teacher for me. Bizai watched eagerly as Saratoga flipped through the comics. There is such a thing. The small house doesn't count, Saratoga said proudly, smiling. When my brother-in-law and I slept together, my sister didn't know where she was. I remembered that when my brother-in-law was in college, my sister had been thinking about how to get close to him. Distressed. Bizai said, Saratoga the sneaky cat. You are envious, Saratoga added, do you know Bizai? How comfortable and warm it is to sleep next to my brother-in-law. Saratoga stopped as she spoke and found something was wrong. She only heard Bizai say, he asks me to sleep with him from time to time. He always likes to hold me to sleep, but I don't feel comfortable at all. Well, still it's a bit comfortable, but I prefer to sleep with my sister in my arms. A sister, an admiral, and let's add a small house. For Bizai, the three most important people want to bully them. Bizai is easy to deal with, but the lonely Queen of the North is difficult to deal with. The comic is back to you, keep reading. Saratoga suddenly felt a little boring. Saratoga found Sugu again, who was sitting on the booth sofa peeling tangerines. Peeling off the orange peel revealed the plump flesh. Sugu didn't eat it immediately. He broke open the flesh piece by piece, and pulled off the white-orange veins on the flesh little by little with great interest. He pulled off one piece and put it on the plate, and then change a flap, finish all the work, smile, and get ready to eat. Eat a clove. Eat another clove. Is it sweet? Saratoga sat down opposite Sugu and saw that his expression was quite happy. It's quite sweet, Sugu said, although it's a little expensive. I really didn't buy it wrong. Even if it's a little more expensive, it's still worth it. I'll see if it's still for sale some other time. I'll buy more and keep it, although it's probably gone. I ate a lot of them during the Chinese New Year at Saratoga, and they tasted good. It seems that Prince Eugen didn't get any kickbacks. Seeing Sugu eating so deliciously, she suddenly felt a little greedy and reached out her hand. There was only the last piece of tangerine left on the plate. Sugu got it first and was about to put it into his mouth. Brother-in-law Saratoga called out, meaning to give her the last tangerine. Sugu hesitated for a moment. He had a habit of eating grapes from small to large, saving the biggest and shiny one for the end. The same goes for eating. The best piece of meat must be saved for the last, and everything else is eaten. Okay, except for the last one. If I didn't eat it myself, I would always feel a little regretful. Brother-in-law Saratoga called again. Sugu finally compromised and stretched out his hand with a very reluctant expression. Okay, here you go. Saratoga complained, brother-in-law, do you want that? Sugu said, did I do that again? Do you have to be so stingy? Saratoga still took the tangerine, thinking, what expression and tone, it's just a tangerine, not a precious thing, is it so reluctant to part with it? The last petal, Sugu explained that it means a very important existence. Saratoga didn't have a good face. She put her head aside, thinking that she would do anything for him, whether it was going up a knife mountain or a frying pan, or going through life and death. Even in the face of a powerful deep-sea flagship, she would not disobey the order to die. Who knew that even a tangerine petal wouldn't be as good? Sugu found that his sister-in-law's state seemed not to be at all right again. He quickly picked up an orange. He would not say stupidly that there was nothing worth being angry about. Girls are all emotional creatures. He said, don't be angry, Jia. I'll give it to you, you peel. I'm angry and I don't want to eat it. It's a pity that Sugu didn't work hard. Saratoga is not that pretentious yet, just a little unhappy. She walked out of the coffee shop, stood in the corridor, and leaned on the railing. She didn't know why she suddenly thought. My brother-in-law doesn't seem to like me that much. Is it because you are listening to novels at Bless Up channel? Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 939. Having just joined the garrison, Cushing was tired of being by Princeton's side almost all day long, no matter when, whether sleeping or eating. Now, she has a lot of friends and a sister, Mahan. Although she doesn't want to recognize her, her sister is too erotic and it is rare to be with Princeton. There was no one around, and Princeton was happy and free. She said goodbye to the cafe, went to the cafeteria alone, made a meal, and looked around with the plate in hand. She didn't see anyone familiar. It seemed that she had arrived too early, so she looked for someone. Sit down at the empty table. Rabbit. Princeton was holding the chopsticks and trying hard to pick away the ginger. Ginger is a necessary seasoning to remove the fishy smell of many dishes, but it is too unpalatable. After some persuasion, she no longer cuts it into shreds or mince. She raised her head. Then he saw the blonde girl, the senior Saratoga whom he longed for. Why did Gaga come to me? Princeton turned around and saw Lexington and the Admiral sitting not far away, and asked a little curiously. No, Saratoga raised her eyebrows, if not, I'll leave. No, no, welcome, Princeton said quickly. She noticed that Saratoga's face was clouded, and she thought that it was probably because she was having trouble with her sister Lexington or the Admiral. What happened? What kind of vegetables did Lexington put into Sugu's bowl? Of course it wasn't green vegetables, but the meat that Sugu liked. She was not Euxian, she was a player who admired raising pigs. Of course, before the pigs really had any problems, she saw her sister Saratoga look this way and sat down where Princeton was. Admiral, are you and Gia having trouble again? The girl occasionally gets into trouble, and usually she can easily solve the problem by just saying a few nice words or giving her a hug. But today she didn't know what was wrong, and she didn't look good no matter what she did. Sugu smiled bitterly and explained what happened. Just for a tangerine, Lexington rubbed his forehead, feeling a little headache. Are you two still children? Until the evening. Inside the room, Saratoga had taken a shower, her long blonde hair was slightly damp, and she was only wearing a thick white nightgown. She hugged a pillow and rested her chin on it, lying on the bed reading comics, her full chest squeezing the bed. Looking at it from the side will definitely make your blood rush and you can't help but feel it. Lexington sat down by the bed and said, Gaga, I know what happened between you and the Admiral. Saratoga was not a big fan of comics and just wanted to pass the time, so she put them down and turned to Lexington. The same goes for the Admiral. It's just that he's so reluctant to part with the tangerine, Lexington said, each playing 50 cards, but you are also the same. For a tangerine, such a trivial matter is on the line. Saratoga snorted. Lexington said, Gaga, I told you, willful girls will not be liked. Who wants him to like it? Saratoga continued, my aircraft carrier, the USS Saratoga, looks beautiful and cute, and is so powerful. If we change to another garrison, it will be the garrison next door, not Tien Hao's family. He is an African admiral. It's so funny that there is only one Kaohsiung after so many years. I mean the Thorn Island Guard's house, and the admiral treats the ship girl so well. Lexington said, how many times have I said that? Saratoga said, what? Read less romance novels and comics. In those stories, the heroine hugs another man's arm in order to stimulate and retaliate against the hero. It has no use except pushing the matter to a worse point. Also, don't talk too much about another man in front of a man, or compare the two people. Lexington slapped Saratoga hard. Don't do it, this is a big problem, very serious. It's easy to get grudged. Lexington thought to himself, the same is true for men. There are so many weddings in the Admiral, and when the two of them are together, they rarely talk about other women, and they quickly change the subject if they don't even mention it. Saratoga hummed, to a certain extent, he could be regarded as a tiger father without a dog son. As the younger sister of Mrs. Perfect, she was absolutely as smart as ice and snow. She naturally knew this truth. She just said it casually. When I read novels and comics, when I see similar plots, I don't know how to learn them, I just sneer at them. The heroine is such a fool. I even feel disgusted and never read them again. It must be more than just this reason that Gia is so fussy. Gia is still very sensible. Lexington thought for a while, it must have accumulated over time, and then exploded today. The so-called tangerine was just a fuse. That's why, Saratoga insisted. Lexington said, don't I, my sister, know you? Saratoga was silent for a moment, rolled on the bed with a pillow, and rolled to the wall. "Sister, do you think my brother-in-law doesn't like me?" "So you're worried," Lexington said, "but why did Gaga ask that?" "I don't know why, it just feels like it," Saratoga said. "Of course he likes you, how could he not? Our Gaga is so cute and beautiful." Lexington smiled slightly, "The breasts are still so big." Saratoga hugged the pillow tightly, "No kidding. Where's the joke?" Saratoga glared at Lexington. Okay, don't tell me." Lexington thought for a while, and then she said, "Gaga, I want to ask you a few questions." "You tell me." Lexington asked, Gia, how many clothes did the Admiral buy for you in your wardrobe?" "Except for the few pieces I bought for you, he bought basically all of them for you." "And how many times did you go on dates?" "How much?" "I dare say that in the whole town, no one has more than you." "And how long do you spend together every day?" Saratoga said, "It's just because I like to pester him." Admiral Cologne, she also likes to pester the Admiral, and Wichita, there are many people anyway." Lexington said, "Why doesn't everyone else have it, only you?" Saratoga muttered, "He never took the initiative. There are so many people in the garrison, but there is only one Admiral. There are many monks but few people. If you don't take the initiative, someone will take the initiative." "Do you still expect him to take the initiative?" Lexington said, "To be practical, although he didn't invite you on a date, whenever I think of any interesting ideas, you are the first person I look for." Saratoga said, "Yes." Lexington gave an example, "It's like a photo of someone holding hands from behind." "Well. And the one last time, it seems to have happened in the office." Lexington recalled that a certain person was standing in front of the map, and his method of flirting with girls was really unusual. She stretched out her hand and pressed it on her chest. "Where is Saratoga?" "Saratoga is here, in my heart. It is so romantic, I am envious and jealous. Why didn't you say it to me?" Saratoga bit her lip, she was so happy at that time. "By the way, there is also that card, the one you hid in the drawer." Lexington said, "There are 9 squares on the card, Gaga is in the middle, and the 8 little people are pointing at Gaga and saying something, I want to marry her, I'm already married, yes, that's her, naughty and cute, pretty and reliable, I don't care, I just like her, similar words." Saratoga frowned, "Are you going through my things?" "I just saw it accidentally when I was cleaning up the room." Lexington said, "I really liked it. Afterwards, I asked the Admiral for it." "Do you know what he said?" "How to say?" "He said, I promised Gaga that I would only give her one." Saratoga felt a little better, "We agreed." "So, does this still count as liking you?" Lexington said, Gia, don't belittle yourself, don't be too sensitive, don't doubt yourself, and then get stuck in a corner and be unable to get out." She puffed up her chest again, "Of course, Admiral definitely likes me more than he likes Gaga." "My sister is so narcissistic," Saratoga said. Lexington smiled and thought to himself, "It looks like everything is fine." Saratoga hesitated for a moment, then spoke again, "But..." Lexington asked, "But what?" "That." "What's that?" "I'm also a married woman, why don't I have one?" Saratoga's face turned red and he hesitated. "She usually hangs out with Bazai, and I don't know how many times I have seen her. She is not a little girl who knows nothing. Although she is not as good as the old Siji like Bazai, she is not inferior." Lexington was confused, and after a moment he came to his senses. Why did Gaga suddenly become enlightened? Saratoga was embarrassed to say that he was sitting alone on the long steps from the townhouse to the pier, holding his knees with his hands and thinking wildly. He just thought of one reason. "My brother-in-law has so many wedding ships, and it seems that everyone except himself is staying there. She looks presentable in front of others, and she can be as ladylike as she wants. In private, she can be quite dirty. More than once or twice, I have heard people ask, Gaga, when will it be your turn? Gaga, what does 10 times mean? Gia, is the Admiral very powerful? Similar questions, I don't know how to answer. I didn't care at first, but over time, it seems to have gradually turned into a thorn. Saratoga didn't want to explain. She shyly asked, Sister, I read in the book that men all like that one. Yes, there is no man who doesn't like that one. This is rooted in a man's genes, Lexington said, but if a man doesn't like that girl just because the girl doesn't want to do that, then he won't like that girl. Definitely a terrible man, not worth liking. What do you mean, sister? Saratoga looked at Lexington, and suddenly remembered such a rumor. She didn't believe it at first, but now she has a little doubt. Gaga, you are a powerful threat. Your sister, for her throne, keeps oppressing you. Yes, what I mean is that you don't have to force yourself, and you don't have to wrong yourself. The Admiral is a very good person and will never hate you for this. Lexington had no guilt at all. Rumors are just rumors after all, of course, except for the little Lolita. The ring represents approval. If you attack a little Lolita, you will have to join the gendarmerie. When two people get married, some things are still necessary. Saratoga bit her palm subconsciously. But Gaga, are you really ready? Lexington said, I heard the Admiral said that you pushed him somersault before. All this time, I mustered up the courage countless times, only to give up and run away before the battle. I don't know what the outcome will be this time. Anyway, Saratoga said, I can do it. Lexington began to joke, isn't Gaga really ashamed of a girl who knocks her head down, knocks her down, knocks her down? We're a couple, Saratoga said. If there is no interruption, there will be chaos. It is better to hit the sun than to choose another day. Otherwise, how about today? Lexington looked at Saratoga and blinked. Saratoga said nothing. Lexington was funny, I knew Gaga wouldn't dare. Saratoga couldn't stand the excitement and sat up, just go, no big deal. Lexington said, Gaga's slogan is quite loud. I keep my word. Saratoga puffed up her face. She put on her slippers, stepped on the ground and reached out to half open the door. Lexington really has the character of a little devil. Of course, this character only appears in front of the two closest people. At this time, she was lying on the bed, shoulders shrugging. Gia, let it go, another day, your brother-in-law, I'm not in the room today, I should be at Akaga's place. Her long black hair was tied up and she was wearing a white yukata. She didn't look like a dignified classical lady with a full of mutsu color. Akaga was kneeling next to the coffee table. Sugu was sitting across from her with his legs crossed. He was saying something when he suddenly sneezed, rubbed his nose and looked around. As soon as Saratoga stepped out with its front foot, it immediately took it back and looked back at Lexington with a truly cannibalistic look. I was wrong. Lexington raised his hands in surrender, which seemed a bit excessive. Saratoga said, I don't have a sister like you. You are not my sister. I was really wrong, I'm sorry Gaga, I shouldn't have played a prank. Saratoga paid no attention to Lexington. Lexington tilted his head and shouted, well, Gaga, I tell you, it's February now. Saratoga said nothing. Lexington said, there is a very important day in February. Without saying a word, Saratoga got into the quilt and wrapped herself in it. Lexington pounced on Saratoga, and she said, Gaga won't forget, the day after tomorrow, Valentine's Day on February 14th. Saratoga's eyelashes fluttered. Lexington said in a longing voice, think about it, prepare a box of chocolates in advance, handmade rose chocolates, and give them to him. Let's go on dates hand in hand during the day, walk through the streets and alleys of Chuangziu, stroll on the seaside embankment, and at night wouldn't it be great to have another candlelight dinner together and then hug each other late at night? Saratoga said, there are so many people in the garrison. I promise, I promise that on that day, the Admiral will only belong to Gaga. Lexington begged, so Gaga forgive me, okay. Okay. Saratoga was very practical. However, Murphy's Law, it must be God's malice. Some things just happen to happen. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 940. February 13th is one day away from Valentine's Day on February 14th. The morning was sunny. This is the kitchen of the townhouse cafe. The young girl Saratoga was standing in front of the long table, tying her brilliant blonde hair into a neat ponytail, and subconsciously shook her head. Among them, the headband was taken from Leipzig. She used to sell small commodities at a street stall. Of course, she didn't pay for it. She didn't use it a few times in several years. There is a pink apron with a big pocket and it is put on. It is Santiago's apron, not someone else's. The reason is that the two people are similar in height and figure. It's a joke. Even if Santiago is the best among the four cat-ear sisters, the cat-ear class is also a flat-chested class. It's still too small after all, and the apron doesn't come in many sizes. Without wearing sleeves, he switched from one hand to the other, and rolled up the sleeves of both hands to his arms, exposing his fair skin. Saratoga is currently in combat mode, and she's going to start, like, making handmade chocolates. The first step to making handmade chocolate. Saratoga turned around and saw the pink-haired girl. Assault her. I'm ready. What do you do now? The attacker looked at Saratoga. The girl came over excitedly in the morning and said she wanted to make handmade chocolates and give them to the Admiral on Valentine's Day. In addition, she had prepared the chocolates long ago and never fails to give them out. Do you really want to make handmade chocolate? In fact, I can just do it for you. No, 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 I have to do it myself. Saratoga said, because only in this way can I melt my heart into the chocolate. You are already on the wedding boat, why do you still want to work so hard? Please give us people a chance to perform, okay? The attacker was muttering in her mind, and naturally she didn't dare to say it out loud, so she said, didn't you ask me to do it for you last year? Last year was last year and this year is this year, Saratoga said. Just do it, as long as it doesn't end up like Houston, the raiders said. What happened to me? A familiar voice sounded, and the two of them looked in the direction of the sound, only to see Houston standing there. They didn't know when she appeared here, and they didn't see her even though they came here. She was so elusive. The raider asked, Houston, how did you get in? Houston replied, walked in. One in London and one in Houston. Two people were not allowed to enter the kitchen. The attacker asked, who let you in? Before Houston could speak, another person walked into the kitchen. She had long white wavy hair that hung down to her waist, and wheat-colored skin. She was a fat South Dakota. She naturally couldn't miss Valentine's Day. Look. To Raider, Raider, you are here, come on, teach me how to make chocolate. You also want handmade chocolate, the attacker didn't understand. What is going on this year? Thinking about it again, it seems that South Dakota makes handmade chocolates every Valentine's Day, but it's just that they can't learn how to do it. It's strange that only Saratoga does. Houston lets it go for now. Little fat boy, you can find someone else. The raiders want to teach me and I don't have time to teach you, Saratoga said while waving his hands. Making chocolate is not too difficult. Many people in the town can do it. In any case, they once opened a store specializing in chocolate. Raiders are the best at it, so give it to her. Who are you calling fat guy? South Dakota was not happy at the time, although her focus seemed to be a little wrong and not the main point. Fat South Dakota is not a little fat guy, he is meaty and cute. Admiral likes them the most, Houston said. Fat South Dakota, ignore them. Come over here and let me teach you how to make handmade chocolate. South Dakota snorted at Saratoga. She wasn't even afraid of Washington, so how could she be afraid of Saratoga? Without thinking much, she turned and ran to Houston's side. The attacker saw the two people chattering with their heads next to each other and making gestures with their hands. He was really a little scared and said, "Nothing will happen to them." "Ignore them, it won't explode anyway," Saratoga said. "Raiders, hurry up and teach me, first. Then." Saratoga really knows nothing. Lexington once taught CV-16 carefully, and now CV-16 is more than capable of being a wife and an expert in housekeeping, whether it is making the bed or doing laundry and cooking. Of course, the former was crushed by reputation and counterattack, but then again, who in the entire garrison wouldn't be crushed by them? The latter was insignificant in the eyes of Yuxian and Fuzang, and there was nothing they could do about it. Lexington, who taught her, was also insignificant in their eyes. Lexington never taught Saratoga. It is definitely not a pig-raising plan in another sense. Under careful care, there is no chance for the younger sister to become successful, and there is never a threat, just like the industrialization of developed countries using high-quality and low-priced pigs. Commodities suppress local manufacturing in other countries. The attacker said, "It's very simple. First find 2 pieces of chocolate and break them into small pieces, then pour them into a bowl and heat them. When they melt, pour them into the mold." "Well, it's too easy to melt and reshape." Saratoga was not so easily satisfied. Besides, she still knew one thing: since you want to make handmade chocolate, you have to start from the very beginning. The attacker said, "It's very troublesome." Saratoga raised her hands high behind her back, stretched and moved. "It doesn't matter." The attacker wanted to say, "You are not afraid of trouble, but I am afraid of trouble, then let's begin. First," the attacker said as he lit a fire and boiled water, then found a large bowl, found cocoa butter and poured half of it into the bowl. Wait, Saratoga realized something was wrong and stopped the attacker. "Assault, don't help me, just give the command, and leave all other things to me." "Well, I still have to help with the ingredients." "I'm ready." "Okay." The attacker found a big bag of cocoa powder and milk, and then he thought of asking, "What kind of chocolate do you want to make, Gaga?" Saratoga said, "Chocolate roses." "Aren't you going to make love chocolate?" The main purpose of the attacker's question was still, for love chocolate, you only need to pour the chocolate liquid into the mold and cool it down. Making rose chocolate is too troublesome. "Don't do it," Saratoga insisted, and there was nothing the raiders could do. "First, boil water until you put your hand in it and it feels hot, almost 40 degrees. Put the bowl into the water, put the cocoa butter into the bowl and heat it over the water. The cocoa butter will gradually melt, and stir properly. Now add sugar, the one on your left. Add the cocoa powder, continue stirring, and then you want to make rose chocolate, turn off the heat and add red coloring. Now pour the mixed chocolate into a plastic bag and let it cool. It's better to put it in the refrigerator. It's faster." Nothing was going on for the time being. Saratoga happily ran to see Houston and South Dakota. He saw something dark and ran back. "Those 2 idiots, I want to remind my brother-in-law that the little fat man's chocolate cannot be eaten. Haha, totally inferior to me. Not as good as you." The attacker said, Gia, I just found out that you are quite capable." "Of course I can do it." Saratoga sat on the bench and waved her hands. "After all, it comes back to the same point. My sister is the perfect wife. She is definitely talented as a sister, but she has never had the chance to show it off. Let rest for a while the chocolate cools down." The raiders took charge again. Pinch a small piece of chocolate and roll it into a bullet shape to use as a flour core. Take another small piece of chocolate and roll it into a round ball, Flatten it with a plastic bag, make it thin around the edges, and wrap the flower core. Press a bigger piece. And so on, wrapping the petals layer by layer. After dilly-dallying for a long time, the attacker said, "That's it, rose chocolate, you did it beautifully, Gaga, it's up to you, I don't care, you can make as many as you want." As the attacker said, she remembered that she and the Admiral had been making chocolate before, which was archaeological chocolate that could be played with and eaten. It was a pity that nothing happened between the two of them at work, and they broke through the relationship at once, and the Admiral made chocolate to please those little ones. Loli's happiness is not for herself, so sad. After struggling until noon, Saratoga successfully completed the rose chocolate she wanted. Gift boxes are not a problem. San Juan has already considered everyone's needs for Valentine's Day and bought many in advance. Pack it all up, tie it with a ribbon, tie it with a bow, and everything will be fine. I just don't know what the situation is like on my sister's side. Anyway, if she dares to play with herself again, she will never give up. Saratoga thought to herself. Saratoga approached her sister in the afternoon to inquire about progress. "Don't worry, Gaga, your sister will definitely be fine if she takes action." Lexington raised his hand and made a gesture to show off his muscles. "Real?" Lexington said, "Really?" Saratoga suddenly frowned. "Of course, I always remember Valentine's Day and don't need to be reminded. I asked my brother-in-law a few days ago what plans he had for Valentine's Day, and he waved his hand and said he had no plans. Later he said that we should go on a date together, but he said we would talk about it later. I don't know. Think about it, there must be many people inviting him, and he is choosing the best one. I still remember accidentally seeing my brother-in-law and Ruhi standing in the corridor talking. As they passed by, I vaguely heard something. It seemed that Ruhi wanted him to date Xianghe. As long as he was willing, she was willing to do it no matter what: wedding dress, white immortal, dead Kyuzui, Bruma, dress. These two sisters, one is shameless, and the other enjoys the opportunity her sister sold her body for. Can they really feel at ease? "Sister, how did you convince your brother-in-law?" So Saratoga was really curious. If everyone couldn't do it, why could sister do it? "You also know that the Admiral is a uniform control, this and that, anyway, he promised many, and finally agreed." Lexington thought to himself, but in fact, he was easily persuaded by calling her brother-in-law coquettishly a few times and agreeing to pretend to be his sister. "It's hard for my sister, no wonder she could defeat Ruhi." Saratoga was moved. "My sister has made such a big sacrifice for my sister, even selling her own body. She is really the greatest person. My sister will definitely work hard and will never let her down." "My sister's sacrifice?" Lexington said, "It doesn't matter. As a sister, a good sister, I will do anything for Gaga." Saratoga suddenly remembered something, and she asked, "Sister, you didn't tell your brother-in-law, right?" Lexington covered his mouth. "I told you. I've reminded you several times. What you can't say, absolutely can't." Even though she has made up her mind about what to do, as a girl, she is still shy, Saratoga shouted. Lexington said funnily, "Don't worry, Jia. I didn't say anything. I just said that I hope the Admiral will go on a date with Jia on Valentine's Day and buy a large bouquet of roses by the way." Saratoga was finally relieved. Soon it was evening. Saratoga was sleeping on the bed, the central square, the underground shopping mall, the pedestrian street. "Well, sister, besides shopping, where do you think we should go?" "Amusement park," Lexington said. "It must be very romantic to ride on the merry-go-round together." "It's not good, Saratoga. The amusement park is not in the city, but in the suburbs. It's too far away. And there must be a lot of people waiting in line for at least half an hour for any ride. It's not worth it just for a carousel." Lexington nodded. "Zoo. Saratoga said, "The zoo stinks, and only the little ones like to go there." "How's the park?" "The scenery in the park is not as beautiful as the scenery in the college." "Then let's go to the academy." Now during the holidays, the college is open to the public. Those who travel to Sichuanjiu, everyone must come to visit the college. Saratoga said, "The only place that is not open to the public is the accommodation area. It is too easy to meet acquaintances there. Instructor Nelson, Dean Zanwei, and Lin Di, there are too many people, and if you meet any one of them, my brother-in-law will definitely have to chat for a long time." Saratoga was a little troubled and asked again, "Sister, what do you think I should wear tomorrow?" Lexington said, "Gaga is so beautiful, any one of them will do. The big trench coat is very handsome, but it doesn't feel right. It's better to be a dress. It doesn't seem good to wear in winter." Saratoga said, and simply started to try on clothes. He tried on one set and began to mutter to himself, "Would you like it? Change your hairstyle, change your image." Lexington said funnily, "Twin tails." Saratoga parted her hair into 2 strands, held it, thoughtfully. That night, after preparing everything, Saratoga was so excited that she tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. It's finally Valentine's Day. Morning. "Brother-in-law, let's go after all." Saratoga did not choose twin ponytails. She still had long straight hair, a beautiful headband, a sleeveless high-waisted dress, and a long ribbon at the neckline tied into a bow. She hugged so tightly Gu's hand, thinking that the chocolate should be given at night. After giving the chocolate, I would confess my love, then hug his neck, and then. Walking through the town hall, I saw Ziwahi looking unhappy. Who had looked over eagerly with ginger and fish cakes in his arms. He was dressed very beautifully in a thin sweater, plaid skirt, and black stockings. Saratoga was very proud, thinking about you. Feel free to be envious until you see a round-faced girl with short yellow hair. Admiral. The girl ran and waved, then suddenly squatted on the ground and whispered, "I bit my tongue." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 941. Keelan. No better than Sugu. For him, it turned out to be just a game. Now everyone needs to get to know each other again. Saratoga naturally recognizes the sisters who originally guarded the mansion. Although they have not attacked together before, and they have not seen each other for a long time, they also have the same appearance as before. In fact, Sugu can also recognize it, just give him some time. Occasionally, a strange ship girl comes to the garrison, and it may be that she comes to visit with her admiral, but if she calls herself admiral so excitedly, she must belong to her ship girl. After so many years of unremitting efforts, there are few people left in the garrison. Even if the difference between the game and real-life images is quite large, it is easy to tell who is who through their characteristics. The girl has pretty short yellow hair, there seems to be something wrong. Looking closer, it seems to be twin tails, but it's not obvious. She also has a cute round face. From the way she covers her mouth, she probably bites her tongue, and then who is a tongue biter? For the above reasons, besides Keelan, who else? It's me, Sister Gia. Even if she is a ship girl, she won't get hurt easily, but it will still hurt. Keelan stuck out his tongue. "Why did you come back?" Saratoga asked again, "Are you biting your tongue?" "I remember that you stopped biting your tongue after you grew up." Jilin turned to Sugu, his eyes shining brightly, "Because I was so excited to see the admiral." "Kylan, long time no see." Sugu also saw Jilin and said hello. Keeling, one of the 4 optional starter ships in the game. At least when I first started playing the game, I couldn't modify it like Firefly and Z16. In addition, because there was no record in history, I won the victory as soon as I went out. It was not like Fubuki's fame in other games, which had a joint effect, and it was very early in the game. It's so easy to get that its presence is very low. Although it was quickly transformed, the vertical painting is very good. On the basis of full level and full skill enhancement, it is equipped with a radar to track the enemy and transform firepower and anti-aircraft. Finally, the firepower is comparable to that of a heavy cruiser, and the anti-aircraft value exceeds that of an aircraft carrier. Only called the wrong name, not the wrong nickname, G-Rishan is the same. Well, in fact, his status is quite embarrassing, and he is the most undeserving of his name among the four heavenly kings. The battlefield of destroyers is still night battles, and firepower is of little use. They can only bully low-level deep-sea destroyers in shelling battles. The lightning strike value is more important, just like Solomon's ghost god Ayanamai, who relies on his super combat power in night battles and is nicknamed Ayajansien. It's strong in tracking enemies and anti-air, but it's a pity to discard it if it's tasteless in real terms. Generally, it rarely fails to track enemies, and there aren't many opportunities to put it on the field. No matter how strong it is in anti-air, it's not like Lawfight can break it in the middle. In this state, it is completely immune to carrier-based aircraft attacks. In all senses, she is really no match for the destroyer Renegade Fletcher. As the game progresses, more and more Fletcher destroyers are added and modified, and this girl becomes more and more powerful, and has the potential to become a star destroyer. After Sugu said hello, he saw the girl sticking out her tongue cutely, and asked funnily, "Is your tongue okay?" "No problem, I've been used to it for a long time," Keelan said. Admiral, you are finally back. I have been waiting for you for so long." Sugu said, "I'm sorry to keep you waiting for so long." "It doesn't matter. If it were Admiral," Keelan said, "I will always stand at the gate of the port area, holding the light high, waiting for your return." Sugu suddenly remembered Keelan's stance in the game, holding a naval gun in one hand and a radar in the other, like the Statue of Liberty holding a torch. He joked, "I suddenly thought, I'm already early, I'm back now and have been waiting for you to return to the town hall." Keelan was really not very smart, so she hesitated and said, "I'm sorry." "I'm the one who wants to say I'm sorry." Sugu was still very conscious. "Admiral." Another voice sounded. Sugu turned around and saw two tall women behind him. The leading woman has long purple hair tied into a neat ponytail. She wears a white ruffled shirt with jeans. Her legs are very long and sexy, and she wears a pair of high heels, making her look like a royal lady. The woman behind has blonde curly hair, wheat-colored skin, and a really nice figure. Sure enough, it was impossible for Keelan to come back alone, and it was impossible for him to wander out alone. It seemed that Xiaozai was running around alone, looking for the Admiral all over the world, which was really touching. Of course, others never gave up looking for him. Changchun was running around alone, and I was still bold at that time. Having said that, if Keeling is really a person, it is definitely his own fault. Due to the lack of beds, the four sisters only left one eldest daughter. Her younger sisters, due to various reasons, such as being unable to transform, would definitely stay if they were strong enough. Li Hui did not like them very much, mainly because they were not rare enough. "As long as you want it, you can get it at any time, so I demolished them all." "Just say sorry silently again, I'm a terrible admiral." "Pensacola," Saratoga said. "And Salt Lake City." Sugu thought to himself, I guess these two people are the same. The Two Sisters heavy cruiser is neither powerful nor rare, and is fairly easy to obtain, as long as there are piles and piles of fried fish, but the vertical painting is really good, so keep it. As an admiral, he knew the history of every battleship. Sugu remembered that these two men had also participated in Operation Crossroads in history. They survived 2 nuclear explosions but were eventually sunk as a target ship. He also hoped that take a look at Saratoga. Sugu waited for them to approach and say hello. Although I haven't seen him for a long time, he is still a bad admiral and still an admiral. Pensacola raised her hands high and waved, looking full of energy. Salt Lake City also waved, and she seemed a little distracted and uninspired. Sugu was concerned, "Are you feeling uncomfortable in Salt Lake City?" Pensacola looked back at her sister, "Admiral, don't worry about her, she is like this. Let's chat a little. It's not the place to talk outside, so everyone comes to the office." Lexington was just surprised. She found the halva and put it on the coffee table. The halva was usually hidden in the filing cabinet, otherwise the little girl would come over from time to time. Feng Zhu and Wanyun didn't want to have anything, and said, "Pensacola, Salt Lake City, do you want black tea or coffee?" With that said, Lexington called Keelan again. Keelan was wandering around the office, looking at the various trophies placed in the display cabinets, including Yamato Fukumai's severed horn and Wikaku Fukumai's scythe, but there were no medals. She kept them all and said, "I don't want them." Salt Lake City was lying on the armrest of the sofa, and Pensacola was looking around. When she heard Lexington's words, she waved her hands quickly, "Lexington doesn't need to entertain us." Lexington kept persuading, but the hospitality was hard to resist, and Pensacola had no choice but, "Then let's have coffee." "Leave it to me," an unqualified admiral. Before Lexington could take action, Sugu found a coffee pot and a coffee cup. He poured a cup of hot coffee for Pensacola and Salt Lake City respectively. The sugar cube jar was pushed to them. "This is a sugar cube." "Excuse me, Admiral." Pensacola was just being polite. Sugu said, "You're welcome." "It was really flattering to have the Admiral pour us coffee," Pensacola said. Salt Lake City held the coffee, blew in, and nodded. Sugu knew how bad he had been in the past, and he smiled. "A prodigal son can't exchange for gold when he comes back, and you should look at each other with admiration after 3 days of separation. Now you will definitely not find two people who treat the ship girl better than me." Pensacola said nothing. Sugu said, "Otherwise, if you ask Lexington, she will definitely not lie." Lexington naturally wouldn't break up the trouble, "Yeah." Salt Lake City said, "The Admiral is willing to talk to me. I believe the Admiral has changed. He didn't want to look at us when he passed by before. It was before, anyway. You have returned to the town hall now. You will know when the time comes." Sugu-shun took a piece of candy in his hand, paused and asked curiously, "How did you know that the town hall was here? You should have seen it. Go to that magazine." Pensacola said, they had indeed seen the magazine accidentally, and then learned of the existence of the garrison and the return of the Admiral, so they hurried back. Saratoga sat on the single sofa next to her. This time she did not brag about her performance on the battlefield like the last time Lin Xian came back. That magazine missed a lot of things, her expressions and subconscious movements. Looking a little anxious. After Sugu briefly talked about the affairs between himself and the town hall, Pensacola spoke again. Since the Admiral disappeared, the town hall lost its cohesion, and everyone began to have conflicts. The town hall fell apart. Where did everyone go after leaving the town hall? Did something? Sugu thought to himself that his guess was correct. It was really that far away continent. He asked, "Is it Yinchange? Remember, it's right next to Jaska." Washington and the others were in Jaska before, and I went to look for them." Sugu said with a smile. "Washington is a barrister. She has her own studio. When I found her, she had just wiped out a gang. Nanda Kafat lives in the basement and does odd jobs, but gets fired every 3 days." After talking for a while, Sugu decided that everyone should visit the town guard mansion. "You have just come back, so you haven't taken a closer look at the town's mansion," Sugu said. "This is our town's palace. It's a bit small, but even though it's small, it has all the internal organs. Sugu continued, while you were away, many people joined us, including Missouri, Hindenburg, Wisconsin. I will introduce you to them. As soon as Sugu walked out of the office, Saratoga pulled him away. Pensacola looked at the backs of the two people. She was very sensitive. I found that Gaga seemed to be annoyed with us. Did we do something wrong? You are right, Gaga is not bothering you. Lexington naturally knew what her sister was thinking. She explained, today, you just happened to come back today. Today is February 14th, Valentine's Day. She was going on a date with the Admiral. Yes, everything is ready, finally, you know why. What a coincidence, Pensacola laughed and added, actually, don't worry about us, we're used to it anyway. Lexington said, it's okay, actually, the focus of today is at night, let's see if Gaga can grasp it. Here, the two of them walked to the empty corridor. Saratoga said, hey, brother-in-law, do you still want to take them to visit the town hall? When will we set off? Can't we leave it to my sister to take them to visit? You also know what I did before? I took people back to the town hall and ignored them from then on. Now that they have returned to the town hall, as the Admiral, I don't try hard to restore my image and just leave them there. Isn't it too shameful? Sugu explained, I definitely can't leave today, I can only do it next time. Saratoga knew the truth and couldn't be willful. She stamped her feet, very unhappy. Sugu put his hands on the girl's shoulders, Chia, be good. Sugu went back. Saratoga left with a sullen face and walked to the coffee shop. If it was only 1 or 2 days, the punishment would be too light, especially if he refused to change his ways. Nevada would have to work in the coffee shop for half a month, and 1 month the next time. In addition, Washington specifically stated that everyone can command Nevada, and forget about others. Atlanta has no taboos. With Washington's sword of Shang-Fang, it will complain if it is disobedient. The opportunity to torment Nevada, a battleship, cannot be missed. Anyway, Nevada can now clean tables, windows, and mop the floor because he has done so much. It is still early in the morning, breakfast has just been finished, and there are not many people in the cafe. Nevada is standing next to the small round table with a small bucket, soaking the rag in water, bending over to wipe the table, with his buttocks raised high and his hairy round rabbit tail is so cute. Nevada, wine, I want wine. Gaga, hearing the voice, Nevada turned around and saw Saratoga. Not only did she know, but everyone in the townhouse knew that the Admiral belonged to her on Valentine's Day this year. Don't you want the Admiral to go on a date? Saratoga glanced at Nevada coldly and said angrily, why are you talking so much nonsense? Seeing that Saratoga had a bad look on her face, Nevada decided not to get to the bottom of it, and would inquire later. She asked, what kind of wine do you want? The stronger the better. Nevada muttered and left. Ruhi walked in after a moment, and she walked to Saratoga. Hey, Gaga, why are you still here? Aren't you going on a date with the Admiral? She asked knowingly. She came here to provoke, she was there at the time, be there and know what's going on. Are you looking for trouble? Saratoga glared at Ruhi, do you think I'm afraid of you? Let's fight. No fight. Ruhi walked away. Active provocation would not be supported by the Admiral. Japan and the United States are not at odds with each other. They just say that we are still sisters. Nevada asked Ziwihi what happened. Someone's date fell through, Ziwihi explained. Saratoga shouted, Nevada, are you going to surrender? Nevada said, no. Hurry up then. Saratoga wanted to get drunk. Saratoga was lying on the round table, thinking to herself that her luck was not bad. Why did she encounter this kind of thing so often? It was a sin. Think about history. The aircraft carrier USS Saratoga did not sink on the battlefield, although it was due to cheating. There was no peace or celebration after the war. Instead, he was pulled to a crossroads to eat a big bomb. Saratoga hasn't found out yet, she hasn't failed yet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 942. This is the office. Sugu looked to the side again. That's the canteen over there, and the director of the canteen is Yuxian. The dormitory is above, but this building is already full. Sugu raised his head and looked back. You can only live in the dormitory building next to it. Sugu decided to take everyone to visit the governor's mansion. Before that, there was one more thing. Everyone's luggage must be put away. You used to be able to choose a room, but you came back too late and the place was almost full, so you basically had no choice. Fortunately, the little Loli lived in a dormitory, and many sisters also lived in the same room, otherwise there would probably be no empty rooms. Sugu led everyone to find another dormitory building and was walking in the corridor. Keelan was carrying a backpack, Pensacola and Salt Lake City were carrying trolley cases and large bags. Sugu introduced as he walked, "This is the room of New Orleans and Quincy. The one with the word on it is the goddess of the kitchen's room, this is Colorado's room again." After putting away my luggage, I walked out of the dormitory building and met another person to say hello. "Pensacola, Salt Lake City. When did you come back?" "Well, you won't forget me. Well, things have changed a bit since I grew up. I am West Virginia." "Ah, little Keelan." Finally reaching the front of the garage, Sugu touched the green-painted wooden door. There are several small holes in the wooden door, which were made by boring little Lolita with fireworks during the Chinese New Year. Of course, they were taught a lesson. This is a garage, basically in an abandoned state. In such a big place, there is only one classic car left by the previous admiral, an African female admiral. Although you can go out from the back door of the governor's house, you can go to the county seat by walking on the mountain road. But the mountain roads are bad and winding, so people still prefer to drive yachts, as long as they go around the mountains to reach the county seat. After walking for a while, I passed by the playground and saw a girl leaning on a concrete pillar. "Kylan, that's Lafayette," Sugu said, and he knew the answer just by looking at the short orange hair and the two tufts of hair on the top of his head that were sticking up. Keelan nodded, and she tiptoed behind Lafayette and shouted, "Lafayette." The voice was quite familiar, and he couldn't remember who it was for a moment. Lafayette looked back and was surprised for a while. "Keelan. I'm back." Lafayette looked to the side and asked, "Back with Sister Pensacola and Sister Salt Lake City?" Keelan asked curiously, "What were you doing just now?" Rafi said, "Hide and seek, I am a ghost. The Lantern Festival hasn't passed yet, so of course it's still the winter vacation. There are still a few days until the start of school, and I don't know about the winter vacation homework. Of course, I have to wait and see. Teacher Gentle Rodney, she used to be a teacher outside, and now she has returned to her old profession. The homework she assigned must be completed well. Anyway, all the little Lolita are having fun now." After finding her friend, Jilin stopped following Sugu and continued to visit the town mansion. She followed Lafayette everywhere. "There's no one here, this is a playground." Lafayette pushed the swing. "We used to sit on this swing together and it broke." Lafayette stepped on the seesaw again. "The fat sister of South Dakota is sitting on one side. The three of us are sitting on the other side and we can't even lift her. It takes at least 4 people. She also says that she is not fat." Finally passing by the sand pool, Lafayette burst out laughing. "Last time we buried the bald eagle Belmaken here, it was Sister Dumpling's chatty eagle. Warehouse, is there no one here?" Inside the food warehouse, bags of rice and noodles were neatly arranged. Lafayette found a box of lollipops on the counter in the corner. She took one and gave one to Keelan. Falcon said with a helpless smile, "Sister Falcon, you didn't see anything. Sister Leipzig is the stingiest and the most calculating. Sister Falcon is generous. Just call her sister and you can get snacks as you like. The goddess of the kitchen also works here. I didn't see her. I don't know where she went walking under the eaves," Lafayette said. That is Sister Wisconsin. Let's go to the coffee shop and take a look. Someone must be hiding there. The coffee shop is opened by Sister Atlanta, but she doesn't do anything. Sister Emden makes delicious snacks, and Sister Raider makes chocolates. Rafi Jong he opened his hands and made a big circle. "Well, we have chocolates to eat tomorrow, lots and lots of them. On a Valentine's Day, even if many people are not interested, Sugu can still harvest a lot of chocolates. Of course, he can't eat so much. It's a shameful waste and in the end he can only take advantage of the little loli." Lafayette took Keelan around to look for people, and it was considered a visit to the town hall. Here, everyone walked past the lighthouse. Sugu looked up at the standing lighthouse. "When we first came here, the lighthouse looked shabby. It was repainted and now it looks good. The wind is very strong on the lighthouse, but the view is very wide. If you are in a bad mood, have no results from your attacks, or keep losing at cards, it is very effective to stand here." There was nothing much to say about the power distribution room. Entering the complex building, Sugu glanced at the training room. "I have to say, Ganyang is really a kind of magical life. Like Akagya, Daifeng, Quincy, etc., they are fine no matter how much they eat, and Beizai, she eats junk food all day long. Others only need more, eat a little, exaggerate a little, and you will gain weight visibly to the naked eye." Pensacola looked at Sugu, looking up and down. Although he had never been interested in fitness in the past, Sugu touched his belly and said, "My 8-pack abs were developed here." Salt Lake City said, "The Admiral actually has abdominal muscles." Of course, Sugu said, "Do you want to see it?" Pensacola said, "Is the Admiral playing rogue?" "Forget it, you still say I'm a hooligan." Sugu pretended to be dissatisfied. "It was easy to see that. Am I that kind of person?" "Yes." Sugu said, "You win." "Look at those abs," Pensacola said. "I won't show you." Sugu just said it casually. Sugu said, "The cafe is a good place to relax and unwind. Come here to sit down after work, read a book, drink tea, and cultivate your sentiments." Sugu looked not far away. Going all the way to the end is an izakaya. It was opened by a few sisters from Kaohsiung. It was originally called Kaohsiung Noodle House. If you are hungry, you can go there and have a look. Oden, noodles, hot pot, etc. are all available. Don't say Japanese. You can't go to the store, but think about it. Wouldn't it be great to eat their food, drink their food, enjoy their service, and not pay them in the end? York and Exeter, they are your good friends. Sugu remembered what Exeter had said before. The reason was that they were both heavy cruisers and seemed to be of similar age. Especially since they were not taken seriously by the Admiral, it was simply at the gathering of defeated dogs. I really didn't know what expression to put on at that time. Pensacola responded, "Yeah. There is a psychological counseling room run by them." Going up another floor, Sugu led the two of them to a room. The door here was open, which did not prevent him from knocking on the door to remind the people inside, "York, Exeter, look who they are." With long orange hair hanging on his shoulders, York looked over, hesitated, and cheered, "Wow, Pensacola, Salt Lake City, you guys are finally back. Where did you die?" A few people hugged each other and let go, and immediately chatted non-stop. They didn't talk much along the way in Salt Lake City, but now they seemed to have regained their energy. After talking for a while, Sugu left. In Pensacola's impression, although Sugu performed very well today, he was still the same image as before. He ignored everyone. Someone went out to defeat the enemy and returned to the garrison. When he was in a bad mood, he immediately started scolding him. He was really a bad admiral. Until he left, "Do you usually stay here?" "Most of the time," York said. York proudly puffed out his chest. "In our psychological consultation room, if you have anything you can't figure out or have any psychological shadows, just tell us and let us enlighten you. We don't just talk casually. We used to be nuns in the church and we did a good job. It means listening to people in the tree cave, and then enlightening, persuading, and comforting. I heard from the admiral that no one came to your counseling room at all," Pensacola said. "There is no such thing at all." York looked around, his eyes evasive, and he felt a little guilty. "It is a good thing that no one needs psychological counseling. It seems to be a hospital. It is a good thing that there are no patients, because everyone is healthy." Pensacola said, "It's not that there are no people, it's because everyone is looking for the admiral instead of you. They also forced Fletcher to seek psychological counseling and bullied him. This, that, do you also believe what the admiral said?" York coughed and changed the subject. "We won't pull people in casually, mainly because we see Fletcher has been troubled and want to help her." "Well, Admiral, are you there? I told you why Fletcher is troubled." Pensacola asked. "Why?" York lay on the table. "He has treated everyone completely and is irresponsible." Pensacola opened his eyes wide, and Salt Lake City also became energetic. "Is there such a thing?" "Yes, there are many more." York said a lot and curled his lips. "He is the world's #1 pervert." Exeter was wearing a white dress, sitting on a wicker chair by the window, looking at the blue sky, gently pushing a potted plant on the windowsill and a pot of mimosa. "Well, actually the admiral is still a very slender and shy boy," Pensacola said. "Exeter, what do you know? It was a coincidence. When the admiral was graduating and doing internship, he was taken to our place and he happened to find me in the tree hole." Exeter showed a smile. Pensacola asked, "What's he looking for in your tree hole?" "Can't say," Exeter thought to himself, not only because of his professional ethics, but now he occasionally sees the admiral troubled and asks him if he needs help. Because this is the first time, he is willing to speak to himself. "If word gets out that I am loud and talkative, I will definitely not have such an opportunity in the future. Tell us, we will never tell anyone else," Pensacola said. "Do you think it's possible?" Exeter said. "I'm telling you, if someone comes to me or you again, and she says the same thing as you now, do you have to tell her again?" My sister, won't tell you, so don't even think about it." York thought for a while and said, "The admiral may have been a slender, shy boy before, but he is definitely not now." The sea breeze flowed into the window, and the long pink hair swayed. Exeter said for a long time, "Yes." After sitting for a while, York invited everyone to the coffee shop, where there was music and snacks. Walking down the corridor, the sounds of "H-A-O" and "Hey" came over. York said, "They must be hitting that tumbler sandbag again, ha. You don't know, in Pensacola and Salt Lake City, there is one in the training room. The admiral-shaped roly-poly punching bag is the most fun to hit. I heard Admiral say that he works out in the training room a lot," Pensacola said. York said, "Bismarck forced it?" Pensacola said, "But he saw it and didn't care." "What does he care about? He still fights himself. He is a person without moral integrity." Pensacola asked again, "Well, is the admiral powerful?" "What's so great?" York laughed. "Awesome, he is super powerful. No matter Santiago, Kent, London, Fletcher, none of them can be his opponent." "It seemed like something was wrong," Pensacola said. "All I know is that Maryland easily took him down, pushed him to the ground, and made him call his sister," York said. "Shugo still has some remaining power," Pensacola said, Maryland is really bold. It's not bold. York said, to be honest, although the Admiral was not very good before, he is really good-tempered now. He is a very good Admiral. If it weren't for his feelings and many details, I really doubt that he is not our Admiral. But another person. It feels like I know, what are the details, Pensacola said. It's hard for me to say. York laughed loudly. In the past, it was a matter of color and courage, but now it is a matter of color and not courage. The details are the color of the heart. You will know if you dress looser and open the neckline a little lower. I want to see it but don't dare to see what it's like. York held onto the railing and looked down at the town hall. That's right there, the garage. The Admiral has been clamoring to demolish it and build a large bathing house. York said, you can know what he is thinking just by thinking about it with his feet. It's not just for mixed bathing, everyone is wearing bath towels or even wearing nothing. I really doubt he will drink the bath water. By the way, he also thought about putting a barbecue grill inside, putting wine in it, a wine pool and a meat forest. On the beach in the summer, swimsuits, suntan lotion, and beach volleyball are all great benefits. In the winter, there's a bathhouse. Wow, York smiled even more happily. Look at the lighthouse. The Admiral's favorite is his wedding ship, mainly Helen. N.A., Colorado, and Mutsu are all in a mess. The last time Admiral and Mutsu were messing around on top of the lighthouse, Kirov captured it with a camera. York said, okay, we're at the coffee shop. Pensacola suddenly grabbed York's hand. There's no point in thinking about the coffee shop. York, please take us to the town hall and tell us more about that. Sugu was in the coffee shop. He looked curiously at a few people standing at the door of the coffee shop, saying something and then leaving. He looked away and looked at the drunken Saratoga. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai-De Rong Yan. Chapter 943. Her bangs were messy and stuck to her forehead, and her face was as red as a red apple. Saratoga was lying on the table, holding the wine glass with both hands stretched out, and what else was she muttering in her mouth? This is what Sugu saw when he returned to the coffee shop from the psychological consultation room. Gia Gia. Sugu snatched the wine glass from the girl's hand and smelled it. The smell of wine was strong in his nose, and the alcohol must be quite high. He shouted, wondering how much consciousness the girl still had. Ah, brother-in-law, are you here? Saratoga raised her head slightly, then buried it again. I just missed a date. Missouri sat across from Sugu. She looked at the girl and said, I came here to get drunk. Me, Sugu, Sugu said every word. You still have the nerve to say it. Missouri said, what have I done again? Do you think I'm blind? As soon as I came in, I saw you, teasing Gia Gia to drink. Sugu looked at Missouri, Wisconsin, and a few others. Several people followed his gaze and turned their heads one by one. Santiago walked with his tail wagging so cutely that I never get tired of it, or he lowered his head to get his fingernails trimmed. You guys did it for fun. Sugu sat next to Saratoga and stroked the girl's long golden hair. He had always hated this kind of teasing, but since they were all members of his own family, he could only give him a lesson. Done. It's hard to be drunk. Admitted, there was a bit of teasing in the front, but we drank it ourselves. Missouri explained, picked up the wine glass belonging to Saratoga on the table and shook it. Admiral, don't worry, we still have some sense of proportion. Look at Canada. The wine glass was filled with just a little bit. It wasn't that she drank the rest, but I found that she was almost drunk, so I only gave her this little bit. Sugu said, but she is still drunk. Saratoga raised her head again. I'm not drunk. Sugu said, you are really drunk. That's a big glass of white wine. It's the first time I've seen this way of drinking. It doesn't seem right. That's how those gang of Mazichuans drink. Missouri smiled and gestured, raised her hand, and drank one by one. Prying it off with her slender fingers, 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, drink the wine as water, who will get drunk if she isn't drunk? Sugu said, won't you stop her a little? I couldn't stop her, and I didn't expect her drinking capacity to be so light. Missouri laughed again. Speaking of which, the Admiral really cares about Gaga. Sugu raised his eyebrows. I don't care, do you care? It's okay, Missouri said, just take a rest and you'll be fine. Actually, well, when we first arrived, we found Jia holding a glass of white wine. She pecked it again, stuck out her tongue, and seemed reluctant to drink, so we started to make fun of her. Originally, she was making fun of her to finish the glass of wine in her hand. Forget it. Missouri looked at Nevada and paused. Nevada's heart skipped a beat. She looked around and found everyone looking at her. She pointed at herself with her finger. Missouri continued, Maine Nevada, Padian brought a few more bottles of wine. After such a long time, Wisconsin has become familiar with everyone. She held the side of her face with one hand. Although Nevada is the culprit, to be honest, we went too far in persuading people to drink. Guam turned his head little by little in Nevada's expectant and hopeful eyes. I'm really sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it. 55 proof vodka. Sugu said, Nevada, please explain. Nevada innocently shouted, I am wronged. Missouri said, let me ask, is it the wine you brought? Yes, Nevada said, but Gaga asked me to serve the wine. Sugu asked coldly, she asked you to serve wine, so you served it? Nevada hesitated, what else? Sugu's face was expressionless and he asked, Nevada, are you comfortable pretending to be a bunny girl? It's a bit cold. Nevada smiled dryly. Sugu said, wear a bikini to work here tomorrow. Oh, Nevada lowered his head. It was better not to provoke at this time, and he was used to it anyway. Wisconsin leaned into Missouri's ear and whispered, isn't it true that Admiral Sue is pretending to be a public servant for personal gain? Missouri nodded. Sugu noticed that the two sisters were muttering something, and he asked, what are you talking about? Missouri waved her hands quickly, nothing. Sugu looked at Saratoga. He pursed his lips, still a little worried. The reason was that the girl didn't usually drink. Otherwise, she would get drunk even if she drank too much sake. She would get drunk every now and then. He was talking nonsense too many times and didn't bother to care. He stood up and pushed the girl's shoulder, Jia, are you still awake? Yes. Saratoga raised her hand and waved. Sugu asked again, can you still walk? Saratoga staggered to his feet, it's okay. Missouri understood what Sugu meant, and he said, just sleep on the sofa in the booth. I want to go back to sleep. Saratoga slurred and refused to give up. Missouri stood up, I'll help Jia go back. No, I don't want your help. Saratoga hugged Sugu's neck, I want my brother-in-law to help me back. Okay, let the Admiral help you, Missouri said, sitting down again and winking at Sugu, meaning that your opportunity has come. Sugu was amused, no, Jia, I can't help you, you are too heavy. Saratoga said, you are the most important. Sugu was naturally joking casually. He smiled and helped Saratoga out of the cafe. Walking down the stairs, leaving the complex, and walking in the corridor in front of the warehouse, Leipzig was leaning against the door frame of the warehouse and talking to Falcon. Looking over curiously, Saratoga shouted, brother-in-law. Consultant Sue, what's wrong with Jia? It's okay, Saratoga said, I just wanted to call you. Sugu said, just scream. Brother-in-law. 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 Saratoga shouted an unknown number of times, and finally said, brother-in-law, I like you so much. Sugu said, I like you too. Passing by the office, Lexington was sorting documents in front of the filing cabinet. As long as she was there, Phelps was definitely not there. She found Sugu holding her sister Saratoga as she walked past the window, and hurriedly ran out, "Admiral, there are also Gaga, what's going on with you?" "I took Pensacola and the others to visit the governor's mansion." As they walked, Sugu explained from beginning to end, and finally helped Saratoga into the room and put her on the bed. "That's how it is." Lexington got a towel from the bathroom, sat on the edge of the bed, helped Saratoga up, and wiped her face. Then he took off the hairband on her head, untied the long ribbon at the neckline of her dress, and then unbuttoned each button, revealing a lot of fair skin, and put his hand into the clothes to wipe the wine stains on her chest. Finally put her down and cover her with a quilt. Among them, Sugu stood nearby without avoiding suspicion, and even opened his eyes wide. Lexington said, "Gaga, just take a nap. Just take a nap and you'll be fine." Sister Saratoga called drowsily. She said, "I don't want to sleep." Lexington didn't speak, but after a moment, he saw the girl closing her eyes and breathing evenly, asleep. Sugu said, "It's so fast." Although there is a reason for Missouri and the others to make noise, they are really a bunch of guys who are just worried about the world being in chaos. Sugu said, "If Gia didn't go to the coffee shop to order a drink, there would be nothing more to do. I think there is no need to care so much. The same goes for dating another day." "Another day is not Valentine's Day," Lexington said, "and the Admiral doesn't know that Gaga has been preparing for this date for a long time. How much does she look forward to it?" "Oh," Lexington said, "yesterday morning I went to ask the Raiders how to stop handmade chocolate. At night I stood in front of the closet, trying on clothes one by one, and couldn't make up my mind. I got up early this morning, even earlier than I did." She sat in front of the dressing table and put on makeup, although in the end it was me who helped her. Lexington didn't say anything because he promised his sister that he would never tell her. Then she suddenly remembered something. "I realized that I shouldn't be here." "Consultant Sue, what do you mean?" "We will send Gaga back. She is still somewhat conscious. She can still walk and do other things. She is not really drunk," Lexington said. "Drink makes people bold. Admiral, do you know? If it weren't for me, Gaga would grit your teeth, make up your mind, and work hard, and maybe everything will fall into place." "Gaga, do you think so?" "Gaga, sister, I'm sorry for you," Lexington said, reaching out and brushing Saratoga's bangs from her forehead. He only saw her eyelashes and pillows, and found some beads of sweat on her forehead. He picked up a towel and wiped her forehead. "So much sweat." Sugu said, "I still don't understand what you mean." "Forget it if you don't understand." Lexington smiled meaningfully. "Well, Admiral, let me ask you a question." Sugu said, "Just ask." Lexington asked, "Gaga has been worried, does the Admiral like her?" Sugu said, "Of course I like it." "Why?" Sugu said, "Brilliant blonde hair, especially standing in the sun, is really beautiful. Beautiful and cute face, sometimes I really want to bite it." Lexington laughed, "You have a beautiful and cute face, why do you want to bite it? Your hobbies are really weird." Sugu also laughed and said, "I don't know why I just said it. If I want to bite you, I might as well kiss you instead." "Kiss her." Sugu only saw the sleeping girl. He paused and said, "It's okay to kiss her. Gaga is my wedding ship." Sugu leaned over and found that his face was red and his ears were red. He had drunk too much wine. He did not aim at the girl's face, but the girl's delicate lips. He must have applied lipstick in the morning and could not wake anyone up. Finally, the girl lightly pecked her lips. Lexington asked funnily, "How does it taste?" "Great," Sugu said, "let's try it again." Sugu kissed him again and said, "She is beautiful and has a good figure." Beautiful neck and beautiful collarbone. I like collarbones. Although she is a girl, look at those cat-eared people in Atlanta. No, they a few are special cases. Anyway, people are thin and have big breasts. I like them very much. Sugu said unceremoniously, well, I admit that I like big ones. What admiral doesn't like big ones? Lexington said, Gaga is beautiful, but her personality is a bit troublesome. Although she is cold in front of others, at least she is very enthusiastic in front of me. Sugu said, quirky girls, energetic girls, don't have so many thoughts, are innocent, cute, and lively, just like an elf-like girl, my Gaga, my sister-in-law. Don't you always find her annoying? Lexington said, she keeps pestering you all day long. Sugu said, sometimes I feel a little bit annoyed, but every day I don't have it, I always feel like something is missing. Lexington said calmly, but the Admiral has so many wedding ships, it seems that he is the only one who has not pushed down Gaga. Sugu touched Saratoga's face. She is still a girl. No, she is no longer a girl. Why not? Because she doesn't seem ready. Although it's okay. If I take the initiative, she will definitely not refuse, but I don't have to be so impatient. I still hope that one day she will, well, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, it's not because others are teasing me, or because I have no one, but because she sincerely wants to, and then she takes the initiative to find me one night and say something. Brother-in-law, let's do that. I don't know why. I find that she seems to be getting less and less confident and more timid. She didn't worry about anything before and dared to do anything, but now I actually think that I don't like her. I think again of the day we just met again, when Gaga took the initiative to get under my quilt, and I really hope to do it again. Or maybe that day, she came and knocked on the door and insisted on taking a shower with me. Otherwise, it was like before, she kept saying, brother-in-law, let's have an affair without letting my sister know, it must be very exciting. One more time, I won't let her go, I will eat her, I will tear her apart. The Admiral is so wild, Lexington said. I am the big bad wolf, Sugu said, although I have waited for a long time, I don't mind continuing to wait. After all, Gia is so delicious. Lexington lay on Saratoga's body. In fact, she didn't actually press on him. She supported her body with her left and right hands. Gaga, little lamb, do you hear that? Lexington sat up and picked up the towel on the bedside table again. Why are you sweating so much again? Is the quilt too thick? It's a day like this. Sugu realized something was wrong and frowned. You said Gia won't be awake. Lexington nudged Saratoga and shouted a few times. Sugu said, she probably isn't awake, or maybe she's pretending to be asleep, don't care about her. Stop talking, let's go, Sugu said after sitting here for a long time. Pensacola, Salt Lake City and Killeen. They just came back and there are a lot of things to do. Gia, let's go. Sugu left the room first, with Lexington behind. She waved and closed the door. When the two left the dormitory building, the girl in the room turned over, buried her head on the pillow, and hugged the quilt tightly.